Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast and finally take actually time to take time out of your day to come on here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and you're in Miami, right?
Yeah, Miami.
I'd have to say that we're one of the lucky few to not actually have snow right now.
Oh man. I was looking at what happened in Texas, and I have friends in Texas, and they're telling me that water pipes are bursting and no
Yeah, I have buddies in
electricity.
Houston, and they're like, he told me that they're flushing their toilets with pool water right now.
It's funny because I grew up doing that
Oh, really?
in Miami. Yeah.
And
Uh,
you always grew up in Miami then?
yeah, born and raised.
Cool. But then last time I reached out to you, you were in Austria.
Yeah, we were like on a business trip, Vicky and I. Um, that's that's a whole other realm.
And
But we couldn't even get in without a business invitation. So interesting to see like every country is different regulations with COVID and travel and everything.
and so what brought you over there work wise?
So we have a sponsor, Women's Best,
Sure.
and they flew us out there for like a big photo shoot, a big campaign. So it was like almost 2 weeks, but the first week was basically spent quarantining because you can't leave until you prove that you're negative for COVID after arriving.
Right. That's pretty cool. So again, pleasure to have you on and talk about everything that's been going on in your life. And I know you through Instagram, and I think I started following you for the simple fact you had like awesome pictures or something like that. I don't even know
Oh,
what it
thanks,
was.
man. Appreciate it.
And so, but then I remember you started posting about kind of your story about what's been going on in your life and medically, and it kind of transformed into this, obviously having the diagnosis that you came up with, and you kind of went on a hiatus for a while, and I kind of want to get into the details of like what happened with you and now where you are now. And so let's start with what led you to first noticing like there was something different with your health. Did you feel that something was off, or was it just like a normal follow-up that you
Something was off
something was off?
for
Okay, so
sure.
like why
Yeah,
don't we start there?
100%. So I practice jujitsu and I've been doing it like on and off for like years. I'm one of
Sure.
those guys that depending where I'm living, I constantly be moving around Miami, different schools and stuff. And I'm doing jujitsu, and we had just gotten back from a trip to Punta Cana in January of last year. And I'm going to jujitsu, and I'm on the floor, and then I feel my toe, my big toe, and I'm like, where is it? Like, I don't, what's going on? Like, I don't, like, I thought maybe I stubbed it because I've injured that toe before in jujitsu. You know, you stub it and it goes numb for a bit. So I'm like, oh, maybe it's just a little pinched nerve or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't think too much of it, but then out of nowhere, I started feeling the inverse. I stopped feeling. I started not feeling things going up my leg. So my knee became very tight. It was very weird. It's like an invisible rubber band like holding my leg from doing an extension.
That's weird.
So I could do an extension. It was just felt like almost as if the signal was going super slow to my leg. And I'm like, that's really weird. And then my left hand started like getting really tingly and like numb.
And no one was
And then,
choking you at this point, right? It was
oh no, yeah, right. Yeah. I actually stopped going to jujitsu because I'm like, okay, like something doesn't feel right. Like something's
right.
going on. So then my foot started getting all tingling and all numb. And then my hands started getting all tingling and numb. And then I started noticing like different parts of me were just, it felt like there's like this little evil minion detaching my nerves from reality. And I was being disconnected from the world. Like I'm
Sure.
like, oh, I can't feel that anymore. What's going on? So it was really weird. So January 13th, like I have all the dates, like they're engraved in my brain.
I'm sure, yeah.
What's left of it at least?
And so what year is this? This is 2020 or 2019?
2020.
2020.
This
Okay.
is literally like news is starting to come out from China of, oh yeah, there's a virus going around, and it wasn't a big deal. Oh, it's not in the state, it's fine. With our a great former president.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
wanna. And so January 13th comes, and I'm telling Vicky, Vicky's my fiance. I'm
Hmm.
like, hey, something's wrong. I think we should go to emergency because I don't like where this is going. And these things, it wasn't like you stub your toe and it goes numb. And okay, so you sit on your foot and your leg, and your foot falls asleep, and it wakes up to shake it off, the blood flow. But in this case, the sensations never came back. So I go to sleep and wake up with all these numb and tingling feelings all day, 24/7.
And it would it
Um,
be like changing on your body, or did it kind of just like once that place went numb, it stayed there?
Constant,
Oh
100%
wow.
constant. No matter the time of day, like it was just there.
Were you having a hard time like doing things like gripping or walking?
At all, at all. It was just um sensory. Like it was just sensory. It was nothing motor. Like um. So I told Vicky, hey, we should go. So January 13th comes and we drive to emergency, and I tell the doctor, hey doctor, look, I have this situation and I'm not sure how to proceed with this. So he draws blood, where they draw blood from me, and then I'm there for like maybe 30 minutes, and I'm talking to him. I'm telling him, oh, I practice jujitsu, so I'm not sure if maybe I injured myself. Um, so I'm not sure if you want to talk about what I've studied in the past, but like I know the difference between different vertebrae. So
Okay.
if my left foot, I thought maybe some kind of sciatica, my knee, because it was just my left leg. But
Right.
then when my left hand started going numb, I was like, oh shit, like this is no longer. We're talking about, different parts of the spine.
Yeah, and for
Um,
people who may not know, it's uncommon for you to have an upper body and lower body like numbness and tingling. Usually, it indicates something else is going on, whether it's more central to the spine or up, meaning like towards your brain or something like that. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
So if you have like numbness and tingling in your hand or in your leg, usually it could be correlated to something like in your spine, which, like you said, a pinched nerve. But again, if you're having both, it's a pretty easy sign to say, okay, it's probably something more serious.
yeah. So the hand one, when the hand one wouldn't go away for like 1, 2, 3 days, I told Vicky, hey, like I think it's time for me to go get checked out. And I'm very like I'm not scared of doctors. I enjoy seeing doctors. So I went, drew blood. He saw my blood results, and he said, "Oh, your creatine level is a little high. Maybe it's because I had in Punta Cana, like before coming back, like I got diarrhea like the day before or something. So maybe you're dehydrated and your creatine level's a little high,
Right.
which is fine. And he's like, oh, I think you just need to like chill out, go home, relax. You're young, you're healthy. Because they did a little test on me, like little neuro test, and I was fine, 100%. So I went home and I'm like, all right, fine, I'll go home. But that's all they did, just drew blood. There was nothing else, no scans or anything. Which I thought was kind of weird considering the the things I felt.
Right. And this is a primary
Um,
doctor that you're seeing or an ER doctor?
this is ER doctor,
Okay.
and the that day was pretty like quiet. Like there wasn't a lot of patients on the floor, so it wasn't like a busy day where everyone was going crazy.
Hmm.
So I said, oh, fine. Maybe I'm an overthinker too. Like I think a lot. Um, so I let it go, and then Vicky and I go to North Carolina with her family like a week later. Um, and I'm skiing, and like I've only skied twice in my life, so you ski. So then I would turn, my right foot would turn, my left foot just stayed going straight. So now I'd be pizza every 5 seconds. So my left foot was just like it was like not there. No.
It just like slip
On
out
top
from
of
underneath you.
yeah, it was like I was numb. Like I couldn't feel my foot. So I guess my brain just couldn't, hey, I don't know where you are right now. So just um
Made for a
and then
great day of skiing.
my calf started feeling weird. I felt like a pulse in my calf. Like it was weird. And I
Hmm.
told Vicky, like, hey, this is not getting better. Like this is actually progressing.
Yeah.
Um, so she's like, oh, we should see a neurologist. So we go and we see a neurologist like almost immediately after coming back, which is like January 22nd or something.
Did you just make that appointment yourself and like maybe you're like, okay, I need to go see someone more specialized, or did someone recommend that to you?
We found someone online like through ZocDoc or something. It was a neurologist,
Oh,
an
okay.
actual neurologist office. So we went, made the appointment, and within the first day or two of being back in Miami, we saw a doctor, the neuro, and he did the same kind of exams, physicals. He pinched his little pins to test I guess, my nervous system and all that. He's like, honestly, like you look fine. Like, you look great. Like there's no weakness. Like they did all these different tests on me with the shoulders or whatever.
Yep.
And it was kind of weird because he's like, you look fine, but he's like, did they do a spinal tap in the hospital? And I said, no, they didn't. And I had a little brother that he got a spinal tap when he was like 4 or 5, and it's not like a pleasant experience. It's not
Definitely
like
not.
I don't recommend it unless it's absolutely necessary. Like,
Right. Yeah. Everyone should go get a
um,
spinal tap.
Yeah, lumbar puncture.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, "Oh, okay, that's weird. They didn't ask you to do that." I'm like, "Oh man, fuck, man. Like, that's a little. I feel a little numb in my foot, like spinal tap him. It's
Right.
kind of
Yeah, right to
crazy."
Spinal Tap.
Yeah, I was like, at least scan me a bit, like do some CTs, whatever.
Before they stick a giant
Um,
needle in your back.
and you're laying there like a fish, like can't move, can't move. You might go numb. You might really have some real CNS problems.
Yeah, right.
Um, so he says, "Look, if you still feel these things in 3 weeks, just come back to me." And I'm like, "Damn, man, like you go and like I know something is wrong. I got
Right.
and it's not like I'm completely uneducated and in the body and stuff. Like one of my last classes at university was neuroscience, and like I studied all the I don't want to go crazy, but the different regions of the brain, the cervical spine, the thoracic, lumbar.
Sure.
So I had an idea that this is not normal. Like, this is
Right.
not okay. And I also shadowed like several doctors like throughout university and stuff. Um, so then it got weirder. Like within 1 or 2 days, like I sincerely felt like I was just gonna collapse. Like my mind just felt like I would be filming with Vicky because we film for YouTube, and I'd be filming and she'd be talking to me, and I just wouldn't be like processing what she was saying. Like
Mm.
I was so in my head, and I'm not sure what it was, but I think I was like super scared. I'm like, dude, I keep losing sensations. Like I'm just going numb every day.
Right. And you
It's
keep going to the doctor and they keep
progressing.
telling you you're fine. So it's you kind of have this weird like
Exactly.
what is going on?
Like what do I do? Like this is weird. Like and
Yeah.
maybe sometimes doctors don't perceive what a patient says as because maybe there's some crazy people out there that, oh my God, I feel something. I'm going crazy. Give me something for it. Like, and
Yeah,
I don't
there's
take drugs.
right.
So
There's a lot of people who are catastrophizers who like even if they have a little bit of pain, they're like, I'm a 10 out of 10. Like I am in so much pain right now. And they're like smiling at you. And it's kind of it's like, all
it's
right,
like,
well, really, are you really a 10 out of 10? But yeah, it's and stress is super big too. People don't talk about that. Like sometimes the stress can bring on like random symptoms. And like
huge.
I'm sure that's was something like in your mind, like, am I just like bringing this on myself?
Exactly. So I felt like it might have been some kind of cascading effect of I'm getting more stressed out. So sometimes you're stressed out, your eyes twitch or something.
Hmm.
So I thought it was one of those things, maybe, but I knew something wasn't right. Then January 23rd came, 2020. And I told Vicky, like, hey, I don't feel good. Like now this is like it's no longer just my lower body. Now my brain is starting to like feel something. Then January 24th comes and Vicky's doing her nails or something. And our clean lady's here. And I felt like I literally was gonna just pass out. Like it just dizziness, vertigo. I don't know what it was. Like I didn't feel like Johnny or Jonathan anymore. Like I was not there. So I Ubered. I told my kid like, oh yeah, I'll be back. I Ubered to emergency, and I'll never forget. I was talking to the guy in the car, and he was from Cuba, so he was telling me stories about Cuba's healthcare system, which is like night and day compared to the U.S.
Sure.
Um, and then I get there, and I tell the doctor, "Hey, look, I've been here on January 13th. I also saw a neuro. Everyone's told me to go home. I want to let you know that I'm not okay. Like something is going on. Like right now, like I feel like I'm about to pass out." Um, and it's weird because I was just skiing down the slopes in North Carolina like 3 days ago.
Right. Just having a
And
great
I'm
time.
actually like, I feel it right now just talking about it. It's almost like a nostalgia, but not very pleasant nostalgia.
Kind of like PTSD, but
Yeah, exactly. That's what
yeah,
it feels like.
yeah.
So I'm sitting there by myself. I didn't tell Vicky I went to emergency this time because I felt this time that this is the real deal. Like, this is
Yeah.
serious.
Like I got to
Um,
get this taken care of.
like something's gonna happen today. Like they're gonna tell me something. It's not gonna be like, oh, you got a cold. That's
Right.
all.
You're really stressing, man. Just calm down.
Exactly. So first thing they do is they put me through CT, which is like 15, 20 minutes max.
Hmm.
And then Vicky shows up because I texted her after CT. I'm like, hey, look, like I'm here. So Vicky comes and the doctors just disappeared. Um, they just disappeared for like 30, 40, 50 minutes. I'm in emergency. And I'm like, and I told Vicky, I'm like, hey, this doesn't look good. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, they're gone. Like they're talking.
They've disappeared.
And she's like, "Oh, baby, oh, I'm an overthinker." She's like, "Oh, you're just overthinking things." And then I see the doctor, and then another. There's like specifically 3 or 4 on the floor, and then another doctor comes, which was not on the floor. I'm like, "Oh, that's the one." She's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "She's telling him what's going on, and it's
Oh
not good."
no.
So then like 5 minutes later, like the doctor, she comes up to me and she starts telling me, hey, look, so the CT scans, I'm like, look, just tell me like, what is it? She's like, oh, they came back abnormal on my brain, the brain CT. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean to you? He's like, well, there's a lot of hyperintensity. I forgot which word she used. Where doesn't look like there's a lot of flow going on in the brain. So she's like, we're gonna need to get you an MRI, like stat. She's like, oh, but right now, the other doctor also came. Dr. Duran was the main one that was taking care of me. He's like, all right, we'll get your MRI, but it's about 4 or 5 hours that you might have to wait. So I'm like, all right, fine. I can, I've waited like almost 2 weeks for this day to get the scans done.
I'm nowhere to be, man. Just like figure it out.
Yeah, like obviously someone tells you you have abnormal findings in your CT of your brain. It's kind of like, I feel my nerves like, oh, just
right.
thinking about it. So then I knew it was serious. Like, I was like, fuck, this is serious. Because within 5 minutes of him telling me you need an MRI and it'll take 4 or 5 hours, they were already like putting me on a bed to get the MRI. Within 5 minutes, I was already in the machine.
Wow.
So then I told Vicky, I'm like, okay, obviously, like they just said, ignore everyone else. Let's put him through first. The MRI, and then Vicky, after we got the MRI, they told us, all right, like you have to stay in the hospital. Like you're gonna be admitted. So then my I was already kind of numb different places.
Right.
But now the parts that weren't numb were like turning ice cold, like paralyzed. Like it was like a shock, like, ooh, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure a lot of that's gotta be nerves.
For sure. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, by the way. You want to interject?
No, this is about you, man. Keep going. Yeah.
So Vicky goes home to get clothes and stuff, and they like won't let me walk. Like they put me in a wheelchair and shit and everything. And I'm like yo, like I can run. Like I just skied like down the slopes. I'm okay.
Right.
And they take me to a room, and they're all right. You're gonna have to stay. And I didn't even ask questions about how long I'm gonna stay. I like to get things fixed right away. Like I'm not someone that hides my problems. Like I don't want to figure out what it is and what are the steps to fix it right away. Like I don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
So the neurologist comes. His name is Dr. Hoschmeyer, and he's like, Jonathan. He's a very nice guy. He's like super cool. Like he's like an American that originally, I don't explain it, but Miami has like it's Miami culture, and he's like the old school Miami, like American Miami, and he's super like. There's not many people with that great bedside manners, and he was great in that sense. So he's like, all right, so I got my results. I'm like, okay, like, what's the deal? He's like, all right, so he kind of goes quiet, and I'm like, look, doctor, like, I don't like things to be sugar coated. Like, I just want I want to hear worst case scenario right off the bat. I don't want to hear best case scenario.
Yeah.
He's like, honestly, I'm like, yeah, honestly. He's like, it doesn't look good. Like that. He's just like, it doesn't look good. So, and what am I? Like, I'm literally chasing doctors for 2 weeks now, and he's like, it doesn't look good.
Jeez.
I'm like, what does that mean? So he like pulls up the MRIs, and I've seen MRI before, like the readings and stuff. So he's like, hold on, I'll be back. And he disappears for like 10, 15 minutes.
Wait, so he just tells you it doesn't look good and then he leaves? He just tells you.
So he opens up the scans to like, it looks so fucked up that he's like, I'll be right back. And I think he went to consult with the radiologist again to like, what they saw was pretty intense. Yeah. Like it wasn't like, oh, you have a little thing here, like you have a little. And I didn't know in the moment how bad it was. But he came back and said, all right, look, he started showing me my scans, but I didn't fully understand everything that was going on. Like I'm in shock. He's talking to me and it's like out the ear. Like I'm not really processing. So he started showing me, he's like, all right, so you have this in your medulla oblongata, you got this here, you got this here. And I'm like, holy fuck, what's going on right now? I'm like, why? Like, what's he talking about? What do I have? Like, I was just running, I was just skiing, I was just doing jiu-jitsu like 3 weeks ago, like perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I got myself to the hospital and they were talking to me like I was a dead man walking almost. So I was January 24th. So the MRI, and then he's like, all right, we're gonna have to get you into a spinal tap. So MRI, CT, MRI, spinal tap, all within the span of like 1.5 hours, like just back to back nonstop.
Great start of the year.
Yeah. So, and he actually went running. Like Dr. Horschman went running after the radiologist that does the spinal tap
Yeah.
because he was like walking to his car because he was done for the day. It was like, I forgot what day it was. But it was just the end of his day. And the guy came back, the doctor came back, and the spinal tap was done like right away. And
Wow.
I don't even ask questions. I'm like, do it. Like, I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
I don't
Like,
hesitate. Like,
right.
I'm
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
I'm all in. Like, figure it out, fix it. I'm not gonna sit here and, oh my God, I need to go home and think about this. Like, with how serious they made it seem and how serious I felt it, like, it was progressing every day.
Yeah. I
Like,
don't
it
know how you
wasn't
could go
like,
home.
yeah, it was like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm stable. No, it was just decline, decline, decline. Every day was like a new thing. Like, this
Right.
finger's numb, or this is numb. Um, Spinal tap, all these things are done, and then I'm in the hospital with Vicky, and she stays with me every day. Like, she was my rock for sure. Like, without Vicky, I don't know how I would have done it.
Mm.
So they drew my blood like twice a day at least, 2 to 3 times a day. They also, this is the part that I was like, what's going on? They were like checking my blood pressure every few hours. They were checking my temperature every few hours. They were everything every few hours. I was being checked up.
Yeah.
And in the moment, I'm telling Vicky, like, this, I was basically repeating what Dr. Horschmeyer said. He's like, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And I'm telling her, like, they're treating me like I'm kind of like not here, like I'm
Like, end
dead
of the line
almost.
here. Yeah.
I'm
Right.
at the end of the line, like
Yeah.
so then they're trying to give me reasons for what's happening, and they're like, look, we're trying to figure out what this is. So the diagnosis was between parasites. MS was considered. MS was considered, but the results are still coming back from all these things that they did to me, all the blood work, MS, parasites, and I forgot how many other potential diagnoses there were. Um, so that was every day, just test, 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 blood, 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 and every day I was like, all right, we don't think it's this. This got ruled out. Then MS got ruled out actually within the first few days
Really? Now, are they
because
explaining
the
what's going on?
oligoclonal.
What was that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They're explaining, but I had 10 doctors. I had every specialist you can imagine on my case, and
Wow.
every like 2 or 3 hours, I have one of the doctors come in and say, "Hey, look, so this part of your body is working okay. This part of your body is working okay." I had like at least, I'm trying to remember, but they had an oncologist on it and everything. So they're checking for cancer, like markers and all that, and everything came back negative. Like, they basically, all my tests came back negative except my brain. And they were like, we don't know what's going on. Like, my white blood cells were normal, everything was normal, except my spinal tap came back abnormal. My white blood cells were a little elevated there,
Mm.
and they ruled out meningitis. They ruled out a lot of things. They ruled out MS. I'm not sure, like, your listeners know, but like oligoclonal bands are like one of the markers they have for MS. So when
Oh,
you
okay.
test positive for oligoclonal bands, then, or negative, vice versa. Um, if you show oligoclonal bands, you might have MS. Like 90% supposedly of MS patients have oligoclonal bands in their cerebral spinal fluid. So I came back negative. So they're like, all right, doesn't look like MS. Like, I'm really young, I'm healthy. So they ruled out MS in that moment. But then they started saying that it might be ADEM, and the actual breakdown of ADEM, ADEM, is kind of complicated. But it's basically your immune system over responds to a virus. And I had the flu exactly about 4 weeks before my toe went numb. Um, so they started ruling everything out. And then, like, the second day, within, it's crazy how fast these 4 days passed. So the first, second day, by the second, third day, they already talked to me about brain surgery. About, hey,
Wow.
look, this is looking so bad that we need to get a biopsy of what's in there. Because if we wait for all the results to come back, all the cultures, then we might be here for weeks. Like, and brain surgery seems like, biopsy seems like the best option to get results ASAP,
Because
to go straight to the root.
you're getting like all these results back, and they're just they're throwing darts at a dartboard. I'm assuming, just trying to figure out what's going on, and everything's coming back
Yeah.
normal except for your brain, the
This was
cerebral
an
spinal.
episode of Grey's Anatomy.
Exact, or House. Yeah, exactly. They're
House,
just
more
like,
house, more
yeah,
house.
House. Like, we need to get this guy in here because we need to figure this stuff out. And then you hear brain surgery. What's your are you still in the same like boat of like, yeah, let's get this done? Or are you kind of like, okay, wait, maybe we should pause for a second?
I was like, when and where? I was like, when and where? Are we talking burhole? What are we talking? Like,
Yeah,
let's
right.
just do it. Like
Am I gonna
today or
have some sick
tomorrow.
scars or what?
Yeah, I was like, all right, let's do it. Like burhole. And that was the initial thing. All right, we're gonna do a burhole, which is little nothing crazy, crazy. And then on the third day, so this is what I'm saying. Like my mind is so like it was so much information in the course of 4 days
Yeah.
that I think the second day they're already talking about, hey, we should consider brain surgery. Within the second day of me showing all these abnormal results,
Now
and
you're
I'm
not
like, damn.
consulting your family at all. You're just like, I don't care, just do it. We need to figure this
Um,
out.
in that moment, like my mom is very reactive, and I felt like as much as they love me, like I don't want to put that stress on them. Like I don't know what's going on. The doctors don't know what's going on. Hey mom, by the way, they don't know what's going on, but they might open up my brain. It's like it
Yeah,
doesn't justify. She'd be like, what? Why? Like, and that would have just been an endless loop of shit. But
sure.
then when the brain surgery became a reality, I told Vicky, hey, they have to know.
Mm.
They have to know what's going on because this might get uglier before it gets better. Um, so then the third day, talked to the neurosurgeon, Dr. Mannon. He's like, all right, so I think that we should proceed with the craniotomy instead of a burr. And I'm like, wow. Like, going from burr to it's a big gap between the two.
Yeah, right. So burr holes, they're just
Um,
drilling a little hole, and then the craniotomies are actually removing the skull cap to take a biopsy.
yeah, like they're getting a piece of, I don't know how big, every craniotomy is probably different. But they get skull, remove it, and then they go in. So then craniotomy became the thing. So at this point, I'm like, wow, like they really think this is bad. They
Yeah,
really think this is as bad as it can get. If
they
they're
want to
about
open
to
my
open it,
brain.
I'm 20, I'm 28. They want to open my brain and take biopsies, like little chunks of my brain. They want to take chunks specifically of where the lesions were.
Mm.
So in this moment, I knew I had white matter lesions. That's what they were saying. I forgot
And,
to mention that part.
and why do they? So they think they why do they think it's like parasites or so like the AMSD? Is it just because there's some what's like on the MRI that they're like, oh, what is like is there something coming up that they're saying this is parasites or something else? Are there multiple lesions in your brain? Is that what's happening?
Multiple,
Okay.
multiple. Like I didn't know how many there was. I don't wanna kill the suspense, but but fast forward to 2021, and like I look back at the reports, and I went to different. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, yeah,
I
let's
didn't
go.
know
Let's
how
go.
many. I didn't know how many lesions I had yet,
Yeah, sure.
but I knew that there was enough lesions to spark concern for a craniotomy.
Yeah.
And in the moment, I don't. For some reason, all my symptoms they just became leveled out.
Mm.
They stopped getting worse over these like 2 days.
So the numbness is coming. Are you like now feeling things and you're walking okay? Is that what's going
It
on?
just became baseline. Like instead of it doing this or doing down, it just said, "All right, we're good here. Let's stay here. Let's not make you worse than what you are right now."
Okay.
Um, it was weird because I was under more stress than I've ever been in my entire life. That was like a paralyzing shock. Like wow. Like this is not cool. This is not.
Really cramping my weekend, man.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, all right, like I'd like to go home, but I know I have things to deal with. So life stopped also. Like work, everything was just non-existent. Like Vicky and I, like that was not a topic. Like we had postings, emails, not like
Gone.
when they tell you that it looks like it's not good, like you stop thinking about the mundane and the first world problems that you have.
Sure.
Um, so on the third day, Dr. Duran comes in. He's like, "Look, so just so I think they were trying to. Maybe I'm wrong. This is my perception of it, and I was extremely like in a crazy state in my mind, reflecting on life itself and the meaning, and going really deep down a rabbit hole. Um, so Dr. Duran tells me, he's like, "Look, so your biggest lesion is in your brainstem, and
Mm.
the brainstem or medulla, wherever it was, the oblongata, it controls your heart, it controls your lungs, like the automated parts of your body. And it was apparently so big that they thought that's why. Then I found out why they were checking my blood pressure, my pulse, my everything every few hours because they thought that my heart and lungs were just gonna flatline and go out
Yeah.
of commission from how bad the damage looked to my brain in that
Right.
area. So it all started making sense, and then I was like, okay, so are we doing a craniotomy today or tomorrow?
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. Like, why wasn't it done on Monday?
Right. Yeah.
The first day. Um, so I know this might sound crazy because like people think of brain surgery and they're like, oh my god, like they freak out. And the moment I was just, just power through it. Don't think about it. And I feel like they're trying to convince me to do it. I'm like, look, I'm already convinced. Like, just do it.
Like, where are the papers do I have to sign?
Exactly, like just do it. So when he told me a thing about my heart and lungs, I'm like, okay, like this is all starting to make sense now. Like
Yeah.
how severe it is, how bad it is. It's not just your foot's going on because you have something in your spine. Like this is full spectrum issue.
Yeah, the circuiting in your
Through and
brain is
through.
messed up. So like, and not for people who don't know, the medulla and the cerebellum are some of the oldest parts of your brain. And like Johnny had said, they're responsible for some of the most basic functions: breathing, heart rate, etc., sleep rhythms, and things like that too. So, if there's lesions that come up in that area, it's certainly a cause for concern.
Yeah. So then the night before the brain surgery, I want to say that was like my most life-changing moment ever. So third day was a day that he started telling me my heart and lungs and cerebellum, all that. And I was like, okay, so like this might be it. Like this might be the end of the road for Johnny. Like this is, I sincerely
Yeah,
was like coping with the idea of death and the transition into the next realm of whatever it is.
whatever's next. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm agnostic. I still question it all the time, but I grew up in a Christian like school and stuff, but I'm not
Mhm.
religious anymore. And I started thinking, if I don't believe in God, like what the fuck do I believe in?
Right.
What happens after death? I'm pretty stoic also. Like I'm very like stoic. Sorry. Um, I don't really get emotional too much. Like I look at a situation and I'm very objective about it.
Yeah.
My bachelor's in chemistry, so everything is very systemic for me. Like, okay, ABC. Like, there's no
Yeah, it's like
no guessing.
if you presented a problem, it's just like, okay, option A, B, C. If you don't have a C, then we'll create a D essentially.
Scientific method,
Yeah.
hypothesis, and you act from there.
Conclusion, exactly.
I mean, you're a doctor, so you see someone has a shoulder issue, and you have a process to figure out what's
Exactly.
going on.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'll say that with patients too, is like especially when we begin, and if something doesn't work, it's like, listen, I got options B, C, D ready to go to figure out, what's going on. So don't worry about if A doesn't work, plan A doesn't work, we got other options. But yeah.
What do you call brain surgery? What plan is that? That plan B?
I can't. I don't think I've had the opportunity to say that it was a plan A, but
Yeah,
I guess we can consider it we'll call it 1B. How about that? It wasn't
one
option
B.
one, but it was 1B.
Yeah, it makes sense. So
Because
that
1A
night
was the burr
was
hole, right?
just yeah. It was one day was burr hole, which that like within the first day was like, all right, that's not gonna work. We need more access to
Yeah.
what's going on. Um, so that night was like the most intense night of my life.
Are you like calling people that you never like? What
I
are you
don't.
just like spending time with like just the people that mean the most to you? Is
I'm laying down on my hospital bed. Vicky here sleeping over my arm.
mm,
It's like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I have brain surgery scheduled for like 8 in the morning or something. 7, 8 in the morning.
yeah,
January 24th. January 28th, I had brain surgery. January 24th, I was admitted to give you an idea.
right. And
And
then
then
3 days
January
later,
28th, yeah, like by the third night, I'm already preparing for the next step of what's going to happen.
did you even sleep that night?
Uh, oh, so that's the thing. Like, it was a crazy experience. Like, it was out of this world. Like, I still try to put into words, and I talk to my friends that they're into like heavy drugs,
I was just thinking that
like
there's got to be like a
ayahuasca. What
LSD,
do you call it? Yeah, like
ayahuasca.
ayahuasca. Like,
Yeah,
talking like that level of trip.
sure.
And I have friends that they shroom, LSD, excuse me, all those things. And he's like, man, like, you know what? To be honest, like that sounds like you were like on DMT or something. Like it sounds
Mm,
like you were like I was like traveling through space in my own brain, and I was wide awake. Like my eyes
yeah,
were open and I couldn't close them. and I'll just hear the beep, beep, beep on my monitor and stuff. And I'm there like it's hard like to truly believe and think that you're about to die or you could die. Like this is not a little procedure. Like this is they're opening up your brain
Yeah.
and they're going in there and they're taking chunks of brain out.
Right.
What happens after that? Yeah, they can say that, or this part of the brain isn't very active, is not a very important part of your brain, but they're still entering that area.
Opening your
Like,
skull.
yeah, like that's like the spot in your body that you never expect someone to go into physically and remove shit from.
Yeah, right, exactly. And did you feel
So
like did you like kind of, did you run through all the things that you did wrong in your life? Did you just, or was it just your look? Did you feel like you were looking down upon yourself almost like in third person? Like what, I mean, what was that experience like? I have no idea what it feels like, but I mean, obviously you want to spend the time with the people who mean the most to you, but just thinking about things like, were there, are there regrets? Are there, or are you not even thinking about that? You're just like, I'm just want to be as present as humanly possible.
like living in the moment had never felt so real in my entire life.
Yeah.
Like you can imagine you like we can say on a day-to-day basis, oh, I live in the moment. And it's such a it's easily thrown out. Oh, I live in the moment. I live in the
Yeah.
moment. But it's not until like someone tells you, hey, tomorrow may not come, that you're like, oh shit, like this is the moment. Like I have no other moment but right now. Like this.
Right.
Which is why like my idea in life is the past is gone. The past doesn't exist.
Yep.
The future is also not real. The future is there's no guarantee. You can have this plan of I'll retire at 55 with my little 2-2-3-2 house, in Naples, Florida or something. And that day may not come.
Yeah.
And I've accepted that that day might not come. So I since that day, I only live in the moment. So right now, Dr. Mike,
Yeah.
like this is like it's like tunnel vision right now. Like, I don't see
Yeah.
anything but you right now.
That's awesome.
Um,
I mean,
I don't really get distracted when I'm in the moment now.
pretty hyper
Um,
focused.
Super hyper focused. Like thinking about tomorrow is kind of tricky because right now is so important.
Yeah.
Like it's difficult to think of any other time but now. So in that moment, those I don't know, like I don't know if I even fell asleep that night. I don't remember if I went to sleep. I just know that they came in and they're like, "Hey, time to go." So I might not have sleep. I don't even know.
Yeah.
And I received zero medication the whole time. Those 4 days, they actually thought about giving me an anti-parasitic in case it is a parasite, so they can start working on me or whatever.
All right.
And part of the parasite theory was I've traveled a lot in the world. I've been to Bali, I've been to China, I've been to a lot of places that people like. Some of these things are more common than in Miami. So they thought that might be an option. So they thought that by opening my brain, they'll know right away, is it a parasite or is it something else?
Yeah.
Um, so then the brain surgery day came in the morning, and I'm inside like the waiting area of Vicky, and my heart rate is just my. They check my blood pressure, in my mind, I'm at pure peace. After the night that I had, I was at pure peace. I accepted that. Hey, look, you might die. One,
Yeah.
two, you might survive, but it might not look good from there
Mm.
on. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like they're gonna remove a tumor and okay, things are gonna look better from here, kind of thing. This
Yeah.
was a
This not the means to an end. This is just like, it might be the beginning of something.
exactly, exactly. Which fast forward a year later, and here I am.
Right.
Having to deal
Spoiler
with
alert.
everything else. Yeah, spoiler alert.
Terrible end to a movie.
Yeah. So then they gave me something to calm me down, or at least calm my heart down, because my heart was just racing, even though my mind was at peace with whatever was happening. And then I'll never forget them like rolling me to the surgical room, and there was like it was like the universe talking to me. I really feel like the universe talks to us. We just ignore it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just obstacles on the way to the surgery room. Like there was literally just tons of stuff. Like I can't even point out anything. Like storage things.
Yeah.
Like imagine like you have a garage full of stuff.
Yep.
Like it was just stuff in the way. So like
Right.
they would have to stop, and my bed wouldn't fit, so they would have to stop me They had to carry it, move it out. Like it took like almost 15 minutes to get me to the surgery room, which was like 10 feet away.
And you're like looking
And
at the nurse next to you. You're like,
I'm
is this
like,
a sign?
dude, is this the universe telling me this is not what you should do? This is
Right.
not what you should do. And I'm like, all right, fine, I'll do it anyways. So
Right.
they take it to the surgery room, and it's such a surreal feeling. And it was such a sterile room. It was a big white room, and this
Yeah.
is exactly what I imagined getting a brain surgery would feel like.
Yeah. The surgical theaters are pretty intimidating when you first walk in there, or even like if you're in there
Super.
for a surgery. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you hear the team getting ready to like open you up and stuff. And the thing I was most scared of was being put, under and then waking up in the middle of that to me is terrifying.
Yeah,
And
that's good. Yeah, nuh-uh. That's a scary movie waiting to happen.
yeah, and I feel like my body metabolizes things pretty fast, like coffee and stuff. Like I don't even feel hyper when I drink coffee or anything. I just go in and pee it out.
Hmm.
Um, Drinking also, like I drink and I'll have to take a lot of shots to really feel like a good like drunkenness, which I don't really do anymore, honestly, after everything that's happened. Um, so I'm sitting there and I open my eyes and I can't see. Like things are dark. Like things are just like everything's like moving. Like I can't see anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I hear voices now, and I hear Vicky say something in Russian. Say something in Russian. I'm like, я говорю чуть-чуть по-русски. So my first words after brain surgery were Russian.
Probably scared the shit out of the doctors. Be like, what did we do?
Yeah, they're like, all right, we missed the connections are gone.
Right.
And all I heard was Vicky and the nurse, and so Vicky's like half Russian, so I know like very basic Russian, like
Sure.
spasiba, things like that. Thank you. Um, and then the next thing I remember is I'm inside a room. There's like ICU, and I just hear like it sounded like 1,000 cows chewing on frosted flakes kind of thing.
What an image.
And can you see it?
Yeah, I
Now,
saw it perfectly.
imagine the worst headache of your life. Like your
Uh,
absolute like pure pain. Like there's a drill in your brain doing like someone's making eggs, like scrambled in your head.
yeah.
And then on top of that, they also cut your bone. Like, they saw through your bone.
Yeah.
So you have this physical pain, like that's unbearable. Like imagine breaking a bone in your head.
Right.
And then on top of that, having a headache, a severe, like unimaginable migraine.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they also cut the temporal muscles for that you chew with and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also cut your skin. So there's like this never ending, like the limit does not exist, basically.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
limit of pain was just infinite.
Infinite.
There.
Yeah. Just never got
Like
any. Yeah.
I have a great pain tolerance, I think, but it was just, and they were like loading me up with Percocet, oxycodone, like all these different things, and nothing was working. So it was
Oh.
kind of like I woke up in pain, and then they just kept giving me things, and they're like, we don't know. That's what I was saying. But I was scared about waking up from the brain surgery. In the brain
Right.
surgery,
Yeah, because you
none of
metabolize
these.
things.
It's a theory of mine, but like, dude, like 3 or 4 narcotics, and the pain would not go away.
Oh God.
And then I'm scared of narcotics. Like, there's another story from another day. It's another podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad had like an opioid like problem. Like he was like heavy on drugs, like cocaine. So this is part of like what I grew up with.
Yeah.
So I was like, I do
You've
not want
seen
to
it.
end up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's not pretty. It's not pleasant on the family. Like, and that's something that I want to talk about more on Instagram and stuff. But I just don't know. Like, I already have such a heavy life story, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
that to add another layer is like, damn, bro. Like, you just like you want a pity party, and like the last thing I want is pity parties. Like
No, I don't think that's the case.
at
Definitely
all.
not. Yeah.
Like I don't want people to think, oh, he's just sharing this, so we feel bad for him. Like on the contrary, like I want you to feel good about your own life. I want you to feel
Yeah.
like I'm fortunate. Like you're fortunate. I'm super fortunate. Like I think I'm blessed after everything
Right.
that's happened.
Yeah, I think people can definitely draw that conclusion, and I think we take for granted sometimes the how easy life can be sometimes, and even just living in America, we take that for granted sometimes too, and the opportunities we present. And how, who we are, and the opportunity to wake up and go to sleep in the same place every night, and be warm and comfortable. And so definitely can feel that way with your story, and definitely not a pity party, man. Like that's just
How do you tell people you went through all these things, and at the same time tell them, hey, don't create a GoFundMe for me? First of
right.
all, I don't
Yeah.
want a GoFundMe.
Hmm.
I
Don't
don't
feel
want your
sorry for me.
money. Like, I don't want pity. Like, I want you to feel better about your own life. Like,
Yeah.
celebrate your life. So then to add, now I'm thinking about Instagram, to add another layer of, yeah, so I grew up with drug addicts in my life.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of like, what haven't you
Yeah.
been through, bro?
Yeah. Right. Like, are you all right, bro? Like, you good? Like,
Yeah. Are you okay?
you all
Like,
right? Yeah. You feeling all right, man?
um,
But you're waking up, you got
so
all these drugs flowing through your system, and obviously you want to like get off them as soon as you can, but the pain's unbearable.
the pain's not like, why am I taking the drugs? It's not helping.
Right.
And then at one point, codeine, Tylenol 3, excuse me. So Tylenol 3, which is codeine with Tylenol,
Hmm.
it did the job. And that's not
Really?
even like the strongest narcotic that I took.
Right.
And then that in combination with morphine, they started morphing me, um, which is an interesting experience.
Mm.
I always see you see it in the movies, like the war movies, where someone gets shot and then they morphine. No, and then he's
Right.
like, "Oh, I'm relaxed." Like when they do the morphine, I feel like this hot instantly. Like they put it, and you just feel like this warmth radiate through your body. Take a deep breath, and it's like almost gone.
Really?
Like you're just so relaxed,
That's
and
wild.
I
Did they
can
give you like a thing?
understand. Oh no,
Oh,
and I
okay.
wouldn't want it either. Like I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know some people if they have like chronic pain, like and they're in significant amount of pain, and they're like in the ICU, they'll give them like a little like button they
Yeah,
can kind of modulate their pain with, but they didn't give you that.
in this case, it was like on demand. Like, I asked for it, and they bring me what I needed at the time.
DoorDash
Uh,
for drugs.
yeah, exactly. And it was crazy because it wasn't until like the third day that the pain started to like chill out, like really
Mm,
chill out. Because the first 3 days, even with all these heavy drugs, like the pain was like in my understanding, at least my perception of it, like 8 out of 10 was the constant pain for like 3 days. And
damn.
I'm talking about brain surgery pain. I'm not talking about, oh, I stubbed my toe and it hurts 9 out of 10 kind of thing. Like
You and your
which,
toe, man. You got to get that taken care of.
oh man, I think I fractured one in jiu-jitsu. That's why I thought that the other one was numb.
Oh
No,
no.
I just fractured it.
So
So
how
that
long were you in the
happened.
hospital for after?
Brain surgery on the fourth day,
Hmm.
and then I didn't leave until like February 4. So January 24 to
Okay.
February 4, 11 days, I think.
Yeah.
11 nights, 11 days. And then those parts were surreal because I started getting better like within days of all this happening.
Wow.
And the neurologist, he's like, so I think that you're getting better. I think, and mind you, like I've gotten zero treatment other than the painkillers after the brain surgery, and things started looking better. And I was confused. I'm like, like, why am I getting better? This doesn't make sense. I'm supposed to be almost dead from how
Right.
much damage I have to my brain, but they're telling
And
me I'm better and I should go home.
it's not like they took anything out like a parasite or a tumor. They just did a
No,
biopsy.
exactly. They just did a biopsy. It wasn't like they removed the tumor. Exactly what you just said.
It's a great
So
placebo
it was
effect.
weird. Maybe, maybe. So they're telling me. I remember the third day, the surgeon he removed the wraps, and I had a
Mhm.
blood drain coming out of my head. So the pressure doesn't build up and pop. So you just see your own blood coming out of your brain, like down into this little thing
Little
for like
pocket, save it for later.
three, yeah, like 3 or 4 days. You just see it, and it's like, oh well, then it's like a little brain hanging from your brain of
Just
blood.
literally a pocket full of brain.
So like you can imagine like the kind of mental stress this creates on a person. Like it's intense. Like I'm not trying to say, oh, feel bad for me. Like I'm saying like it's pretty intense,
It's
man.
got to be
Like
trippy.
it's like for you to get me to do brain surgery again, like I better need it. Like
Yeah.
I better like it
You're
better
not
be a
signing the paper
tumor.
so fast this time.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was kind of like crazy.
Hmm.
Um the blood drain got removed on like the third day after brain surgery. He's like, all right, like you're good to go. I'm like, what do you mean I'm good to go? He's like, yeah. I'm like, man, like, I just had brain surgery. You guys are just telling me I was a dead man, like not even 3 days ago. How
Right.
am I good to get up? And then I immediately bounced back. Like within the fourth day, I could finally like eat. I didn't eat for 3 days. I didn't go to the bathroom for almost 3 days. There was nothing coming in, nothing coming out. Besides, I remember if they gave me fluid or not.
Mm-hmm.
Anything I tried eating, I'll just puke it right out. It
Man.
was like, it was a crazy experience. And I forget about it sometimes because it feels like 10 years ago, but it just happened literally a year ago exactly. We're still
Right.
February 21. Um, I'm trying to remember all the details because there's a lot of details. So then they had
Yeah.
like a physical therapist come and like walk me. And I felt terrible because that ICU unit was like the neuro ICU. So all these people that had brain surgery, they had aneurysms clipped, things like that. And they're all like over 70 years old. Like I didn't see
Mm.
anyone in that unit that was under 70. So I'm there like walking my I don't know if you want to post, you feel free to like show pictures of that post by the way. I could send them
Okay.
to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm shaved and I have all these like metal staples like just like down. You can't see the scar anymore unless
Yeah.
I like completely staples, and then I had random staples here. You see in the picture, I'll send it.
All right.
Which is when they open me up, they like basically stapled my scalp
To
to
your forehead?
my forehead. Because
What
I
a
was my brother's like, hey, why do you have staples there? And I was looking at the picture, and I'm like, oh my god, they stapled my my head to my head.
oh my God. Jesus Christ.
So I don't know, you can't really see it, but I had a scar here for a little bit. So that was an interesting experience.
Yeah. But
And I was
you're also
walking.
walking around with all these 70-year-olds like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, like, and I kind of felt bad. I'm like, wow, man, like I have it so good right now. Like I have brain surgery, and within a few days, I'm walking again. Like it's incredible. Like I thought I was gonna be dead
Yeah.
just 72 hours ago.
And they what will they take the biopsy, and what do they did they find anything, or what's going on? Or does it take a
Also, the brain surgery, I skipped the part. You see, I'm trying to remember the details. So
yeah.
my mom, Vicky, and Vicky's dad, I have a good relationship with Vicky's dad. They were there waiting for me to get out of the surgery. And then Dr. Manon comes, and when I'm more, I guess, lucid, he comes to me. He's like, "Hey, so we did a biopsy of your right temporal, right? I think it was here temporal." And he's like, "We also went by your ventricles, which is like it's not
Deep in your
out here.
brain.
It's
Deep in your brain, yeah.
deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, way deeper." He's like, "All right, so we also put out some lesions by the ventricles." I'm like, "Wait a minute!" Like, I initially agreed to getting my frontal lobe examined and taken apart, but now you guys went down there. I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like, why are we
Yeah.
doing this? And he said it was to make sure that the different lesions were the same problem. Like,
Oh,
what if this is a parasite and this is like they were just trying to, I guess, make sure everything was making sense, I guess.
sure.
Um, so they took out multiple parts from my brain, which is interesting story, I guess.
yeah.
It's cool that they can take parts of your brain out and you can still like communicate with people and like live a normal life.
Yeah, it is kind of bizarre that they said that there's like certain parts of the brain that we don't use, right?
So not as much as other parts, which is here, and I have no deficits whatsoever from the brain surgery,
Wow.
which is pretty crazy
Yeah,
because
which is bizarre. That's crazy.
like you see pictures of a brain and you're like, how do you go into a brain and not fuck things up? How do you not mess it up?
yeah.
Like it's literally just a mass of
Mush.
mush, like, and you're going in like you're no, oops, there goes that nerve, oops, there goes that axon, and there's like trillions, millions of axons and things.
Right. Oh, he can't open his eyelids anymore. He doesn't need those.
Exactly. So it's not like one neuron they took out, like it's like things missing, and
yeah.
I'm feeling normal. And then, man, this is a really long story. Wow,
You're
it is like this goes on for a long time.
you're good. You're good.
um, and they told me to go home finally, and I'm telling Dr. Horschmeyer. Also, before the brain surgery, he told me, like, look, like, you sure you want to go through with this? I'm like, I mean, you guys are telling me I don't really have an option. He's like, oh, but you don't have to. He's like, after brain surgery like this, people tend to have the risk of epilepsy 10, 15 years down the line. And the moment I'm like, I might not make it till tomorrow, so what am I gonna worry about what's gonna happen to me in 15 years? Like just do it. The biopsy, like preliminary results are coming back, and it was like no parasite, no this, no that. Everything was just negative. It was just white matter lesions. And demyelinization is what they saw,
Oh,
which is the axon, the myelin, like just being torn apart.
yeah. So, like for those who don't know, like in the brain or in the nervous system, the basic unit is a neuron, just that composes like the nervous system, exactly, just like that. And then along that like line, there's going to have like these small little nodes, and they're going to be covered in myelin. And what all that myelin does is it creates a sheath to help allow the electrical current go from one end of the nerve to the other. And so without those nerves, the ability for the electrical signal to go from one end of the nerve to the other is inhibited, or it doesn't happen, depending on how severe the myelin sheath degeneration is. So it's basically insulation. Think of like the electrical system in your house. And without insulation around the wires in your house, you're not going to have any conduction.
They strip it,
Yeah.
like stripped off. I can't do it here because I get in trouble. It's like our only charger left for iPhone. Um, so then, spoiler alert. Fast forward, and I start seeing another neurologist at University of Miami, and I'm telling her like, "Hey, I'm kind of confused. I want other perspectives on this. I trust that I had 10 doctors in the original hospital, and they did their due diligence, but I still want other opinions."
So
And then,
so you did the biopsy. It came back
yeah,
negative. They just said it was demyelination lesions. That's all it was.
that's all they could see, really.
Okay.
That's what they got from the scans also, which was consistent with like what people with MS and those type of diseases have. So I went to the neurologist in University of Miami, and then she's like, "All right, let's do some more exams, like different blood tests, which they might have done, they might not have, like NMO, like different
Mhm.
other diseases." Um,
And
and they basically just, sorry.
how far after is this from your brain surgery?
So I saw the neurologist February 14th,
Oh, so it wasn't that long. It was only like 2 weeks.
10 days. So I had, the universe really has blessed me in a lot of ways. I called because someone recommended this neurologist at UM, like a family member did. And I called and hey, I'd like to, make a reservation. Reservation. I like to make an appointment. Sorry.
Like to have dinner at your hospital.
I'm thinking about food. I haven't had breakfast.
No, okay.
I usually fast until like 1 p.m.
Oh,
usually,
okay.
and it's not really intentional. I just don't get hungry until then. Um, so they tell me, all right, the next appointment is July of 2020, which is like 5 months later. I'm like, wow, I would like to get an opinion ASAP because they told me to go home and no treatment, no nothing. Like just,
No
hey,
PT, nothing. You're just walking and you're just doing everything normal.
I'm walking. That's another thing. In the hospital after the brain surgery, I was a fall risk. So all the nurses, they see me walking at 2 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever time. They're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm walking." Like I'm a believer that when you stop moving, you start deteriorating more and more.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
the sooner I can walk, the sooner I can run, the sooner I can do anything, like I feel like I have a better outcome.
Yep.
So I kind of went against their wishes. Like they wanted me to just lay down all day and maybe walk a little bit. But I was like, I want to say I was walking a few miles a day in the hospital, just in circles in the
Just
unit.
losing your
Like
mind.
just, yeah, like just this is better than sitting still and thinking too much.
For sure.
And I will talk to nurses. This is before COVID too. Like COVID wasn't, lockdowns didn't happen until like the month after, and two
Thank
months
God,
after.
because that would have been an awful situation for you.
No, it's been. I can't imagine what people are going through right now in the hospitals. Like I
Right.
can't imagine me getting the news I was getting in the hospital by myself,
Yeah.
completely by myself, and
Mm.
then not being able to communicate. And after brain surgery, I had my mom and Vicky like there the first day at least, and Vicky was there every single day. Like Vicky only went home to get herself clothes, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that support system is invaluable. You can't put a number on it. It's just so people that don't have someone, I can't imagine what they're going through. Like I don't wish that upon anybody. Um, Things got weird because I did more MRIs and the lesions, they were still like active like in February. So my left foot after the hospital, sorry, I might be going a little crazy.
You're okay. No, you're
The,
good.
my left foot was numb, and so was my left hand. But as I was leaving the hospital, my left foot, my left hand, they were getting better. Like there was sensations were coming back. Like I was almost becoming a normal person again.
Yeah.
No treatment whatsoever besides, putting brain out.
Stapling your forehead.
I stayed with my forehead. So a lot of trauma, a lot of stress, and I was getting better. I'm like, bro, this doesn't make sense. Like, why am I getting better under stress? Like,
Right.
usually it's the inverse.
Yeah,
Like
it's
you're
the
stressed
inverse
out,
correlation.
you go worse.
Yeah.
And so I went to this doctor, Dr. Carbonar, which is incredible. She's Romanian at the University of Miami, and she opens up my scans for like the first time when I'm there, and I brought her the CDs, and her face is just like
Another great
like,
reaction.
and my head is completely like buzz cut, and she's like, I can't. She's like, wow, oh my god. I asked her what are her impressions, and she's like, oh my god, like I can't believe this.
It's very
I'm like, what
scientific of
kind of,
you.
yeah. I was like, that. Usually doctors don't talk like that, and I was like, well, I feel the same way,
Yeah, right.
like,
You have your head shaved.
yeah. And she's great. She's incredible. Like she's the best doctor I've ever had in my entire life, and
Mm-hmm.
I owe her my life in a way. So she pulled up the scans and she's like, this is incredible. That incredible in the sense of, wow, like you have so much damage to your brain. And so I didn't add this part. So I not only have lesions in my brain, but they did more scans like 1 or 2 days before the brain surgery, which was, so I'm saying like it was 1 or 2 days, like, like it's not very far.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what day it was. Um, I have more lesions going down my cervical and my thoracic spine just continuously, like lesion. So in total, my spine. This is a spoiler alert. When I went to UM, they made a report of my MRIs, but it was much more user friendly. Let's say much
Okay.
more easy to read,
Mm-hmm.
and it basically said that my brain, I have. It literally says 20 greater than.
Oh my God. So not even a
My
specific
brain,
number.
not a specific number. And then it says black holes 5 greater than. I hadn't heard the black holes part yet. Like
Yeah.
the other hospital, they didn't tell me black holes. I just know I had lesions, white matter lesions, not complete necrosis of my brain in certain parts.
Jesus.
And then my cervical and my thoracic in total had like 17 more lesions. And I'm thinking like, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
Like, why is this happening?
Yeah. What is going on?
Yeah, and I'm getting better. And I'm like, I don't understand. And Vicky's like, oh, you're a superhero. I'm like, I'm not a superhero. This is just pure like luck. Like
Listen, this needs to be logical. You can't just throw superhero in there, all right?
Yeah, exactly. Like this is not like, this doesn't make sense whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So she says it's incredible. She's like, oh, if I had a lineup, okay, so you go to you need a witness to see like, is it number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 or 5? She's like, if there was a lineup of 10 patients, you'd be the last person that I would pick for these MRI scans. She's like, you'd be my last option.
And this is the doctor that you saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just looked so normal. And like she did a whole exam on me. And the only thing I really had was the nystagmus, which like my eyes would like, jump. You can explain that better if you want.
It's just a neurological condition where if you're looking out, depending on the impairment, it can also be seen in like other vestibular diseases like BPPV or vestibular neuritis. But when a patient looks to a certain direction, the eyes will start to almost go from side to side, and then sometimes they'll just like calm back down. And again, it varies with certain things, and I don't know all the different diseases that it's associated with, but again, with neurological conditions and also other vestibular things, basically your eyes will just they'll start like going back and forth, and sometimes they rotate as well, and then they'll calm back down.
Yeah. So that was one of my initial things. So I forgot this part. Dr. Horschmeyer, when he told me, hey, it doesn't look good, he told me like to jump on one leg, my left leg, and I just couldn't. Like I was stumbling on my left leg. So that's another thing I was experiencing. Like my coordination was just not there really.
You could jump on your one leg before, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I'm just kidding.
But he was basically asking me to pistol squat though, and I was like, pistol squat? Like,
Yeah.
not a lot of people can pistol squat,
Right.
let alone like pistol squat with 40 lesions in their brain.
Right. And more than 5 in your black holes.
Yeah. The black holes is the whoa. Like,
So you have this meeting with the doctor from and she's
yeah.
saying it's crazy. Then what's next?
Further test, more tests. So like, my life didn't stop at the hospital. Like, to this day, like I still get different tests. I have to get tested now before treatment also to
And
check
you're pretty fully
my blood
recovered at this
levels.
point from the brain surgery.
This was like less than 2 weeks after brain surgery.
And you're
So,
pretty much fully recovered in regards to like pain. Or you kind? I mean, obviously
oh yeah,
the trauma's
oh
still going to be
man,
there, but pain wise,
yeah,
like you're feeling all right.
yeah. It just disappeared almost. But then I would have moments where I would just get like a migraine, and I
Hmm.
would just take Tylenol, and that's it. Like, I wouldn't, like, they asked me at one point in the ICU, a nurse, I called her to get a Tylenol, like just straight Tylenol, nothing else. This is towards the end of my ICU after brain surgery. She's like, "Oh, do you want morphine?" I'm like, "No, I want Tylenol." I literally said, "I want Tylenol." Like, why are you offering me morphine? Like, there's like different levels,
Right. Yeah.
and I'm trying to wean off of these things.
And she's trying to give you more.
And she's trying to, but maybe it was like 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Um, and brain surgery, like maybe I'm not thinking right. Maybe I said Tylenol, but I meant morphine. But
Hmm.
I stuck to the Tylenol or Tylenol 3 or whatever it was that she gave me.
That's good.
Um, so then more exams. So out of nowhere, I had a very stressful moment with my family. Right after within 2 or 3 weeks of the brain surgery, within a month max. And then out of nowhere, my left foot that had gotten 100% better, like all sensation came back to my left foot. And then out of nowhere, my left foot started going numb. I woke up in the middle of the night, my left foot got numb again.
Hmm.
And my left hand was fine, 100% now. And then my right foot started going numb too. My right foot was never numb before. So this was like a new development. Like, it wasn't like, oh, that went away, came back. It was, oh, this is new, by the way. So it's kind of, I was like, oh man, what's happening now? Like, I went from getting really good to now I'm like going down again.
Sure.
So I told my neurologist, hey, look, this is happening. I told my other neurologist at the other hospital, hey, this is happening. And he said that, the biopsy results came back, and he also sent to Mayo Clinic, which is like considered one of the best research hospitals or whatever in the world or
Hmm.
states. Um, and he said that they think it's MS. And then I'm like, whoa, I'm like, that's kind of weird. So this all happened within the first month of me leaving the hospital.
Right.
He's like, they think it might be MS, and he's like, I kind of agree with them too. I'm like, what are the chances you think? I think it's like a more than a 50-50 chance right now. And then I was confused because the oligoclonal bands came back negative.
Yeah.
So I was like, but didn't you guys rule it out? He's like, yeah, we did, but there's cases of people like, let's say 90% test positive, 10% don't, and that might just be that special 10%. So he said that we should get you on treatment ASAP because I'm showing progression of the disease or whatever. And then I went to the emergency at University of Miami because I didn't want to. I was still trying to get that second opinion. Like, I wasn't gonna just take one person's or one doctor's opinion and ride with it.
Yeah.
And Dr. Carmeron, she wanted to do more exams to like rule out everything else because the diagnosis when I left was ADEN, the ADEN.
Right.
Um, which is you just let it go. Like, it happens once and it's monophasic. So
Hmm.
one episode and you don't have to worry about it again, kind of. Although they say that some people might like relapse into MS from there. And she said that it kind of looks like ADEM. It's like a very rare occurrence, like one in I don't know how many millions of people, like 1 in 8 million experience that or something. Um, so then more exams, more exams, more exams, and everything kept getting back negative. NMO came back negative, or at least the markers that they have for it. So then by July, they said, "All right, we're gonna call this MS. We're gonna label it as MS."
Wow.
But by July, all my symptoms disappeared, hundred
Wow.
percent. Like, as you see me now, is how I was July of last year.
Was it a
Just
progression or you really just kind of,
I just got better.
wow.
Like, I just got better. Like, over the month or 2 or 3 or whatever after the brain surgery, I just I got worse and then it got better. Like
Mm-hmm.
the new foot thing happened, but then everything got better. And Dr. Carbonar, I would message her. So I saw her January 14th. Someone canceled on Valentine's Day. So I skipped. I'm a really lucky guy. Like I'm telling
Yeah.
you, I'm generally a lucky guy. I skipped the 5 hour MRI thing, but probably out of urgency.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one was someone canceled their the Valentine's
Day appointment.
yeah. So then I was all right,
Get me
this
in.
is it.
Yeah, nice.
So I got lucky there. And then things got better. But it was just surreal because I was like, I don't understand this. Like I still have them. I just got the MRI results and thankfully, knock on wood, there's no new lesions. I have to share on Instagram. I haven't shared it. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no new lesions and there's no enhancement of any of the lesions I do have. But the big lesion in my brainstem is still there. Like it's not like, oh, it got better and it healed and it went away.
It's still there.
Yeah, which it really did something to my mental health just the other day because I was like, wow, like this is here to stay. This is
Mm-hmm.
not going away. So then I told Vicky, like, how much more damage can my CNS take before, like it calls it quits.
Yeah.
Um, MS patients are supposed to have like about the same life expectancy,
Yep.
although quality of life won't be the same as a normal person,
And
or
do
at
you know
least
what kind
whatever
of
you want
MS
to.
you have?
They they call it relapse remitting MS.
Okay.
You
I'm
can
pretty sure
probably
that's like the
talk
most
better
common.
on what it is.
It's
Yeah,
it's pretty much the most common. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure. And there's like
yeah.
four different types and with varying symptoms and stuff like that. So
The worst I want to say is like one of the progressive ones, which
yeah.
is like those people have like everyone everyone has MS, but they just I don't think they get better. They just get worse and worse. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine like what they go through on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Like I remember being last year where I was getting worse and worse, and I eventually like it came around somehow. But there's people that they get worse and worse, and they just never really get better. They don't
Recover.
remit or relapse remitting.
Yeah. And so
Um,
now you finally got this diagnosis in July. You're better. And do you return to normal life? Get back to work at this point? Like what's going on?
my grandma had just passed away
Ooh.
in June. So this is crazy. I'm make this part quick. I had the brain surgery. 2 months later, my uncle passes away.
Mm.
Um, and then 2 months after that, which is June. So April, my uncle passes away. June, 2 months later, my grandma passes away. And my grandma was sincerely like my best friend in the world. Like she was like the person that meant most to me in my life. I
Sure.
would dare say even more than like Vicky. So it just life happened. She's 92 years old, and I accepted what happened.
Sure.
And then I'm going to get my treatment for the first time. And Ocrevus, it's split apart 2 weeks. So it's one dose, and then 2 weeks later you come in for the second part of the dose. So I get the first dose, and then a few days before my second dose, I'm driving with Vicky because we're about to get like a new car or something, and they just call and they say that my dad had a stroke, and this was in August.
Jesus.
So I'm like, oh well, like let's do the
Let's do
what's the
this
next
thing.
step?
Yeah.
What's the next step? Um, so my dad, unfortunately, he passed away within like 2 weeks of the stroke. It was like a really severe hemorrhagic stroke, and
Very
he
sad
he
to hear
got
that.
he wasn't there mentally. Like he was already as soon as the stroke happened, like it was it. He was like gone.
Mm.
But that was really heavy. That was like I'm in the middle of getting my treatment. I'm in the middle of trying to figure out my life with MS. My this is different. This is not normal life anymore. And then people around me are just dropping like flies.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed, but I haven't talked about COVID or the pandemic
No,
whatsoever.
right. And I haven't brought it up either just because, I mean, stories about you, but I mean, you're in the middle of a pandemic right now.
So I'm not even thinking about that. That's not even
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Not even from the forefront of your mind.
it's like, and it's kind of funny because like I see people like complaining online about it, like, oh COVID, oh pandemic, oh
Let
my
me
life
tell
is
you about my 2020.
it's like and but I don't want to play those games either because everyone struggles their own, and
Hmm.
just because my struggle seems worse doesn't mean it's it's all how we perceive our lives. So I don't get offended or anything either. Like I start thinking about part of what has gotten me through this is I used to volunteer at Miami Children's Hospital, which is now called Nick Klaus Children's Hospital, and I used to be a bedside buddy. So I would play with the kids, like bedside buddy. Essentially, that's what it was. I was their bedside buddy.
Wow.
I'd bring carts of toys and stuff, and to play with them, or sometimes help with their homework, things like that. And my all kinds of things, like from foot surgery to they got something not too crazy to oncology. And the oncology unit was the unit that I like to think that I spent the most time in. And it was just this is way before like anything happened to Johnny. Like this was Johnny in university. This is me like taking 17 credits a semester type of Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
Hyper focused also in school. And you got these kids that they're like dying of brain cancer, dying of all kinds of cancers at the age of 4, 3, 5 years old, 10 years old. And they were the happiest kids in the hospital.
Yeah.
And that to me was like just, I get goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like I'll play with these kids and it was as if life was just, this is the moment. Like you're not thinking about tomorrow, really.
Do you feel like that
Um,
prepared you for everything that happened last year?
Absolutely. Like I still say to this day that like the only way I've been able to keep my chin up is like these kids that are no longer with us in
Mm.
this moment, they're like holding me up, like, hey, keep your head up. Like it'll get better. Like that's what keeps me going in a more positive light,
Yeah.
considering everything that's unfolded. Um, so that really like I think played a major role in my like character development and stuff
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
experiencing things and like reacting to things. I'm much more proactive than reactive, I like to think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so those kids really did help me out. And they're not even here with us anymore, most of
Yeah.
them. There was twins one time that they both had cancer. Like can you imagine like having kids that are twins if they both have cancer?
No.
And I walked into the room one day and one of the twins wasn't there anymore. And that's like I can't fathom what it's like for a parent to go through that.
Yeah, I can't.
Like that's just
Yeah, I mean, it's a super uneasy feeling, and even for people who don't have kids and don't know what it feels like, it's still a very unsettling feeling to internalize and to think that. I mean, it's just because it's so innocent, It's like if you, like you said, when you were in the hospital in the ICU and you see all those people who are in their 70s and they've had their lives and then they had brain surgery, and not that you don't feel as bad for them, but it's at least they lived their life partially. But then you see these kids and they haven't gone through anything yet, and all they know is hospitals. It's like it's tough to see.
yes. So I think about those parents and the news I got is probably nothing compared to the news that they got.
Sure.
Um, so I think about those things, and I don't want to say that I like to compare different struggles, but I'm aware that things could always be worse.
Yeah.
So I try to turn anything I hear that's negative. So, oh, you're gonna have brain surgery. I try to twist them like, wow, I can get brain surgery. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like I can. I'm not in a country where that's not an accessible resource.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just try to paint every picture in a brighter light than how it presents itself.
Yeah, I think that's a great outlook on life, and it certainly helped you through. I mean, what could arguably be a very tough 2020 for you.
Not too tough though.
Yeah. So,
And
I mean, August happens. Your father kind of he passes, and
yeah,
obviously your family dynamic has certainly changed, and you're trying to recover. Where's your mind at this point? Are you? I mean, you're optimistic now, and you're very, you have a great outlook on life, but I'm sure that came with the experience of everything that you've gone through. And after August, where's your mind at, and where's your body at? Like, are you trying to have some sort of normalcy? Are you working? Like, what's going on?
oh yeah, we started working like last year. So I have these staples in my head, and I'm like, answer emails. I'm like, thank you for your patience. I'm sorry for my delay.
Sorry for being
It's
so
like,
selfish.
sorry, like like I couldn't get my head together for a few days. It was one of those things, and it was like weird. It's like that, and I imagine that's kind of what it might feel like for someone that's in war. You know, like someone that experiences like war as a soldier, and then they have to step back into this regular civilian life, and it's like what it's surreal. It's like two
Completely
different
different. Yeah,
realms.
completely different.
So then I had to just so the craziest day for me was walking out of the hospital finally alive. I mean, staples through my head, but I go outside, I take a deep breath, and I see all these cars driving by, and there's traffic, and there's honking, and there's this and that. I'm like, wow, man, like the world doesn't stop for you at all. Like the world just keeps spinning. Like there's nothing that, so there's no point for me to like cry my sorrows about, you know, the MS, the this, the that, my grandma, my dad. I can, what's the word? I can grieve it, but I'm not gonna sit there and cry about it my entire life. You know, like you just gotta live it every day, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy seeing like the difference between you're about to die kind of mentality. At least that's how I perceived it. To hey, you got to get back into your 9 to 5 job and be stuck in traffic for another 40 years of your life and
Answer emails.
answer emails. But I was working from home, so it was like I'm jumping back and forth because I have random memories like popping
Yeah.
up. I just had brain surgery January 28th. Our rent is due the last day of every month for the following month.
Hmm.
So January 29th comes or January 30th or something, and I'm like, something's off. I wake up at 4 in the morning. I'm like, something's off. My heart's just, and I have the band-aids over my head. I'm like, what's going on? Why do I feel like this? And I'm very type A. If you want to use like type A, type B personality,
Sure.
I look at my phone. I'm like, rent is due in 2 or 3 days, and it takes 3 days to be transferred. So I'm there with my head
Freaking
swollen,
out.
in pain. I'm like logging into a bank account. I'm like, babe, wake up. She's like, what happened? What happened? I'm like, we gotta pay rent. So
She's probably like,
so
really?
it's
You
just
woke me up for this?
yeah, and and I even texted my landlord and hey, by the way, something happens. I'm a little delayed. Payment might come a day or two late. Just a heads up.
Yeah. I mean, kudos to you to be very diligent on your rent payments.
No, I like to think I'm a very responsible person, and I don't like to let anyone down. So even my landlord's like, I need to let them know that no matter how much of a shitty situation I'm going through, I'm gonna make sure I take care of them.
Rent is paid.
Rent is paid. And then the emails, I might have gotten a few emails in while I was in the hospital. I don't remember. Um, and I'm trying to remember where I was because I'm like, I'm telling you random memories I have, which
Hmm.
might be too crazy. Um, so I started seeing an MS neurologist in University of Miami, and I got put into like a research study, and that's part of how I ended up on Ocrevus. And they're comparing aggressive treatment versus less aggressive treatment. So Ocrevus is considered more aggressive and wipes out your B cells, so you don't really produce antibodies. And then that's kind of tricky because I'm in the middle of a pandemic, and on top of that, my body won't be producing antibodies.
Yeah.
My dad just passed away. My grandma just passed away. You know, like I'm still coping with everything that happened this year. And I'm like, whatever. Like whatever happens, happens. Like I'll just continue being the healthy person I like to be. You know.
Hmm.
So my diet never really changed. I was always I don't really eat fast foods. Like I try to eat like whole foods. You know, like full meals. And I fast periodically. Totally random. Um, and so people, I've seen a lot of people that they have a mess and they have like they're overweight or this or that. And that's just random people because I've seen people that are skinnier than me that have a mess. So it's not just a weight thing.
Yeah.
So people change their lifestyle, but the only thing I've changed is I probably drink less than I used to.
Sure.
I hung out with friends last night and they were taking more shots than me, and if I took a shot, it was like 25% of a shot.
Hmm.
Because I just don't like my body's already messed up.
Right. Yeah. Do you have like an adverse reaction to it, or is it just you don't want to damage your body any further?
I don't want to put more toxins in my body,
Gotcha.
honestly.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so galanidium. I'm not sure how familiar your watchers are with that, But gadolinium is one of the contrast dyes they use for MRI, and I have gotten at least 7 to 10 MRIs in the past year. So
Mm.
brain, cervical, thoracic, brain, cervical. The constant follow-ups of is it getting worse, is it getting better, is it staying the same, like constant,
Mm.
constant, every few months almost. And I just got it now, and the brain cervical came back fine, no new lesions. And then I communicated with my neurologist. I'm like, hey, by the way, like I've done more research now on gadolinium. I'm like a serial researcher. Like once I want to learn about something, like I go deep into it. And I started reading some crazy things about gadolinium, and I'm like, wow, like why am I putting this in my body again?
Right.
It wasn't until like 2007 or 8, don't quote me, that the FDA and like the medical community was like, oh wow, this actually causes problems in people.
Really?
So people that have kidney issues that were getting gadolinium, they're developing. Some of them were getting a disease out of it. I forgot what it was. You have to look it up though. And the disease like is pretty like intense and fatal or whatnot. So obviously it's not good. And then I started reading about how it deposits in your brain and like different tissues in your body. And the more you do it, the more you have deposited. And I was
So,
reading about. Sorry.
so I was gonna say, so you told your doctor, and did they change anything, or?
So I told her, based on my results just now from Tuesday, that my brain and cervical came back the same. Not better. It just came back basically the same. And there's no development, no progression of disease. Like I like to opt out from the contrast for the thoracic spine. I like to think that the brain and cervical are the more important parts of my CNS. And I told her like I want to avoid putting anything more into my body that might cause long-term harm. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel 100%. Like I literally have zero symptoms right now. Like I'm so blessed. I'm so beyond. Like I can't thank whoever is in charge
The spaghetti
of
gods.
the spaghetti god, because they took some meatballs out of my head.
Right.
uh, Literally meatballs,
Literally,
like balls of
literally meatballs.
meat.
Yeah.
So they let me pass on it. So I passed on the gadolinium this time because I just don't. If I had symptoms, I told her 100% do it. I want to see what's going on.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's like, why am I gonna
Put extra shit
have
in the
no
body when I don't have to.
symptoms? Yeah, like my body's been through enough stress and trauma, and forget the physical stress and trauma. Like also like the mental, like that's something that I don't know if people even talk about, or there are some people that I'm open about it. Like
Mm-hmm.
the mental situation now, and like especially throughout the world,
Yeah.
like the pandemic. That's so there's like layers to all these things.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely, especially during the pandemic, I think that was something early on that wasn't really talked about, and I think it has come up more and more now, where it's like the pandemic side effects have certainly caused a significant toll. And I think even in Japan in December of like 2020, I don't know if you saw this. I think CNN posted the article that like more
Yeah,
people killed themselves in 1 month in
I
Japan
think it was one
than the
month for
pandemic
the
killed them an
whole.
entire year. Like, and that I'm not. That's an entire year. Like that's insane.
It's wild.
Insane.
And then you
Yeah.
have to weigh out. All right, so is this really helping this our whole society?
Right.
And it's not
And
just like a community; it's like the whole world is
yeah.
involved in this.
Yeah. I mean, even the CDC
Um,
came out with some stuff saying that like lockdowns are pretty, they don't, it was either CDC or FDA or somebody saying how the pandemic and severe lockdowns can cause significant mental, um, it causes more harm than good, regardless of like the pandemic. And I think there needs to be a lot changed in regards to that. But for now, I think we definitely need to be more aware of the mental health aspects of everything and what we do. And obviously for you, you'd been through the gamut last year with everything, and
it was a piece of cake.
piece of cake. Yeah. Just
Piece of cake.
whatever, whatever. Just get staples on my head. It's fine.
Yeah.
Missing my brain. And then, so are you trying to get back to, did you get back to exercising at all after everything's said and done?
I run now.
You
I
run
do
now?
more running than anything else.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is not because I physically can't, it's because the treatment I'm on, since it affects my immune system so much. I got I got the flu from my best friend, and he does jiu-jitsu also with me. But once in that community, like once one person has it, it tends to spread like wildfire. Like
Right.
because you're wrestling each other. You're inhaling each other's breath. It's not like 6 feet. Like this is like
Yeah, you're on
I'm
top of people,
exchanging my saliva with you in
basically.
some
Yeah.
cases. Like you sweat into someone's mouth sometimes, from just how sweaty you get.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons I haven't done it, because I'm weighing out the risk and the odds, and it's not worth it right now for me.
Yeah.
Like,
And
why am I gonna put myself there?
are you staying pretty locked up with everything that's going on right now, or are you just kind of, weighing your pros and cons with everything?
So last night I hung out with like 6 of our friends. So 4 couples, me, Vicky, and like the other ones, and all of them already had COVID
Mm.
over the past 6 months.
Well, I mean, Florida's
And then
open, so.
yeah, Florida's super open. So they've all had it. So then I guess some like peace of mind of knowing that, like, you know what, the antibodies are probably still in because it's been within 6 months.
Right.
So it's like a little safety net of
Sure.
one of them just had it 2 months ago. The other one had it like 4 months ago or 6 months ago. The flu's still going around though. I started seeing that more.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
some numbers actually finally posted about the flu in like over a year.
yeah, it was just non-existent
The
last year.
flu
Now
just disappeared.
completely. But I think that now we're being more open again. Like the flu is gonna kind of make its comeback.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they're going to start, I think they're going to eventually start opening things up here and like within reason and, at least promote mask wearing and physical separation as much as you can. And then, in the meantime, try to get some back to some sort of normalcy as the vaccines are being rolled out and issued out and, protect the
Yeah.
vulnerable and go from there.
How is the Bay Area overall?
It's weird. There's a lot of people who, I mean, California is different in itself just because like California's governor is pretty stringent on the rules. And we were at stay-at-home order up until the end of January. And
Yeah.
so basically we couldn't, I mean, outdoor dining wasn't allowed. It was all takeout and everything.
Yeah.
And then more recently we're allowed to get back to everything, but now they're issuing out like vaccines like crazy. That like they opened up Levi Stadium for like where the Niners play, and they're like just vaccinating thousands of people now. So I have a feeling that we're going to start to get back to normal here, which is kind of cool. But everyone's really compliant here, and the bar scene isn't that crazy, just because no one's really open as much. And I think a lot of people out here are very complacent when it comes to the rules and regulations from everybody. So it's pretty,
Yeah.
pretty as you'd expect. I guess California would be. That's where we're at right now in the Bay Area. So.
Yeah.
But I'm from New York originally, so
Long Island, right?
actually upstate.
Upstate?
Yeah, upstate New York. So kind of in the
How do you
middle of
say
nowhere.
water? How do you say water in drawer?
Water.
One of my best friends is from Long Island. She's water.
Water.
Drawer.
Water. Drawer.
Water.
Yeah,
And
they got.
now all the Californians moving, well, I don't know about Californians. I heard someone yesterday say that someone from San Fran is looking for apartments in downtown.
Yeah,
New Yorkers are buying Miami cash. Like they're just coming in and sweeping in and just my $1 million studio apartment in Manhattan, I can sell it and buy 5 times the size of Miami downtown for half the price.
that's what everyone in California is doing. Everyone, especially LA, Bay Area, there's still a pull just because there's so much tech here, and a lot of the tech companies are still kind of they want to get back to in-person working. Like my roommate, he's a software engineer at Google, and they were talking about
Nice, cool.
getting back in maybe September. And so and then I knew somebody else who worked at Apple, and he was telling me that they eventually do want to get back to working in person. So I have a feeling that the remote working works for now, but I think a lot of the big tech companies that are still here want to get back to some sort of normalcy. So the Bay Area is different, whereas in LA, I hear LA people are just, I mean, moving everywhere out of LA right now. So, and moving
Yeah.
mostly to Texas. I hear a lot of Texas here, not so much Florida, but I
Yeah.
can definitely see, I've seen a lot of New Yorkers move to Florida,
Yeah, it's a
especially
lot.
South Beach.
Me and Vicky, we're actually in the process of starting to look for a property because we've been renting and we're tired of renting. And we found a listing that we like and we made an appointment to see it. And
Cool.
at 10 in the morning, they text us, hey, sorry, it's under contract. It
Hmm.
was just listed like a week ago.
Yeah.
And
People pay
then same
cash.
thing in
Like
Miami Beach.
people will pay cash because like they'll sell their properties out here and then they go like the average home around here is probably goes for like 1.5 to 2 million in the Bay
That's
Area.
wild.
Yeah, so like if you go to anywhere else, I mean, you could pay cash and then some. Like if the asking price is if the asking price is 300,000, you say, well, I'll just pay 320 and buy it now. Then
That's exactly what's happening. My friend
yeah,
that's the realtor helping us out. She says that they'll have a listing for 600 and you have someone from New York come in like, hey, look, I'll give you 610, 620 cash. Just
mhm,
let's close it out.
right,
And that people aren't even coming to see it. They're just, all right,
buy
I'll
it
buy it.
now. Yep.
Buy now, buy
Yeah.
now. So the prices are just
I know, and it's interesting to see how that's going to change. Like, I'm wondering if a lot of like original Floridians are going to move someplace else, or if original like Texans are going to move someplace else too, because all these crazy New
oh
Yorkers are going to
man.
come down.
The the income tax is the biggest thing, I think. Florida and Texas. We have no income tax. Whereas you in Cali, I think your highest bracket is 13.1 or something.
Yeah, I did my taxes maybe like a week ago, and before I did all my like my deductions and stuff, I was at $5,000 just for state tax.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
that's just
The-
state.
So if you move to Miami, you keep that. You
I
don't have to
know,
give that,
I
right?
know. Well,
So, and then your
I
money goes farther because things are kind of cheaper here, I think, compared to the Bay Area.
well, I lived in West Palm Beach for like 2.5 months, so I'm definitely familiar a little bit with the east side of Florida, and I definitely enjoyed it over there. But hurricane season, man, I don't know how you guys do it.
Someone told me that I don't mean to offend the New Yorkers. Someone told me this. They said that when the first hurricane hit, the New Yorkers are gonna like scram like roaches. Like, oh
For
no, fuck
sure.
this. I'm going home. I don't want this. But
And I
hurricanes
feel
aren't even that bad though.
they're not bad.
In Miami, like I think everyone here is so used to it that it's like a normal part of daily life. Like it's just
Mm,
when you grew up in it, at least.
yeah, and I think a lot of people who are moving, they're not like original New Yorkers or they're not original like Californians. Like maybe the people who came to California originally like came from someplace else and now they're moving like to a different state. And like I heard I heard somebody make a really good point that a lot of the people who are like in California, the people who are leaving are probably the people who were never here originally, and the people now who
True.
are in California are probably now California may be more California, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. You
Same
know,
thing for New York.
yeah, same thing for New York, which may not be a good thing for New York, but it's I think New York needs a little bit of help, but it'll be interesting to see over the next, especially as things open back up, like with the pandemic, if people like move back to those states or if they stay in Florida.
Yeah. We'll see what unfolds, man. Because we can't even buy property right now because people are buying in cash.
Yeah, are you guys just gonna keep looking, or are you gonna wait?
We're looking like it's just things go on the market and then they're gone. They go on the
Hmm.
market, then they're gone. So it's
Yeah,
but then we don't want to be impulsive either. Like, oh, we gotta buy just because everyone else is buying like crazy.
yeah, and it's
Um,
tough too because interest rates are so low right now. You're like,
yeah. So
I
people can afford more house than before,
right,
which is tricky because then it's like, what if prices kind of go down? Then
plummet, yeah. And now I saw you post stuff on Instagram for like your insurance. How has that changed? Like paying insurance and stuff like that now. Like I don't know if you want to run down that rabbit hole.
of
Like
course.
I mean, you're getting all these MRIs and you had brain surgery, medically bills. You gotta have had quite the tally there at the end, quite the tab.
Um, so like that's one of the last things you want to think about. You're thinking about. Remember, I was the night before my brain surgery. I was like, okay, what's gonna happen now? You know, like, is this the end or is this the beginning?
Yeah.
And as soon as you walk out, you're just on your own now. Like you don't talk to the doctors anymore. You don't talk to the nurses or anyone or social workers. And you start getting bills, and you're like, wow, like what is this? The first one, the big one was you probably know that the hospitals they charge you for their hospital bills,
Hmm.
and then each doctor, each nurse, or whatever group, the people doing the MRIs, hospital charges you for MRIs, and then the people that operate the MRI send you their own bill. So now you got like you're getting like double slash triple bills for MRI, and then the doctors also send you individually. Like I had 10 different doctors, so I was getting like 10 different bills, one from each different doctor.
Jesus.
And for each day, it was a different bill technically. Like oh, the 24th, the 25th, the 26th. Um, that was the hospital one alone. They were charging like 420,000 for the 11 days. That was just one, and I had like at least 60 to 80 claims at the time, just from those 11 days, and then some stuff after, like test afterwards. And you see that, and I'm there like, I haven't got my staples taken out yet. I'm looking at these charges, and I'm like,
You haven't answered any emails. You have no hair.
I have no hair. I'm like, I haven't gone back to work yet, and like really back to work yet. And I'm getting these bills, or because I also called to ask, hey, by the way, like I want to know ahead of time before I'm surprised with certain things. And then my health insurance at the time was $250 a month. And it was very basic. It was like the kind of insurance you get so that you don't get charged for the ACA fee.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, that time when if you didn't have insurance and you get charged $700 or something.
Yeah.
So I had the most basic thing, but I also had little add-ons, catastrophe coverage or something. And that was a catastrophe that happened. So then I upgraded my insurance. So I started getting bills, like just count like endless. I have a whole like data sheet in my computer, and I would organize it by name of doctor, by the price, by the total cost, by the date, so that if I need to find it, I'm not gonna look through 1,000 letters
Yeah.
manually. Like I downloaded the PDF version. So then that's where it gets tricky with our system. Like you're just thrown out with the wolves, like brain surgery, we don't care, figure it out. Like imagine if you're 80 years old, you have brain surgery, and you don't have any caregivers, like true caregivers, like your I don't know, your sons, your daughters, your brothers, and you're just there stuck with these bills. Maybe at that age, Social Security covers it. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but you still got to figure it out.
Right.
It's not free. Um, and I'm sitting there so confused. I'm like, is anyone gonna help me out with this? And then when you realize that you're alone, like no one cares, like no one really. Our system isn't very supportive. I think 60 something percent of bankruptcies are due to medical issues, be it because they can't afford it or because let's say they got brain surgery and they can't work anymore, like
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Um, so then I retroactively upgraded my health insurance at the time to that catastrophe thing. So they started charging me $700 a month retroactively from January 13th, from the first day I went to see the doctor.
Okay.
So that doctor was actually there, by the way, the day they did the scans.
What
He
scan?
he, the first CT that came back abnormal and
Yeah.
MRIs,
Yeah.
he clocked in just as I was getting my results.
Oh my
Like,
God.
so you can imagine, like I felt so bad for him. Like
Right.
I deep down, I felt so bad for him because I was like, man, like I can't imagine what he's thinking right now.
Right.
Like as he was doing his job, and this is even my neurologist at University of Miami. She was like, honestly, like if you present what we presented, like it wouldn't cross my mind to do all these tests to you. Like it's just you look so healthy. Like you have no
Right.
deficits. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Um,
That
especially
might
the
have
brain
been,
surgery.
and that might have
I
been
was
why
like,
there's so much confusion early on when like the doctors were kind of like, yeah, just like go home.
yeah, because I was, as you see me now, like however you are right now, then that's how I was when they saw me.
Right.
The same conversations, like everything seemed normal. Um, I talked to him. I'm like, hey, doctor, and I remember his name too, but I don't say it just out of respect, just in
Sure.
case. And he's super cool guy. He's like in his mid-30s, maybe a little older than me,
Yeah.
and he's like, he looked confused. He was like, I don't understand, and he was
Yeah.
looking through the paperwork, and he was like, I don't understand. Like, what is this? Um, no one understood. Like, and I've coped with that. Like I'm not gonna blame them for, oh, you didn't do your due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
Like you followed protocol, and it just happened to be a very rare case.
Right.
It was a very rare situation, 1 in 8 million, let's say. Um, and the bills came in for all these doctors, 10,000, 20,000, 9,000, and then I noticed that the neurosurgeon's bills, I got it twice. One for January 24th, which is the day I was admitted, and then one for January 28th, which is the day I actually got the brain surgery.
Mm.
And I told my insurance, I'm like, hey, it looks like they double billed me for the same procedure. And then they're like, oh, it's tricky. It's really tricky it's like this endless maze to deal with insurance companies.
And billing. I mean, that's a beast. I don't even want to deal with.
No, at all. And they make it almost impossible for you to like email. They do not communicate with you email. At least the company I worked with, the health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they don't want to. It's easier to fight off a hearsay case of, oh, we didn't say that. He just thinks we said that. Whereas if they send you an email, it's like, hey, they said this and that didn't happen, kind of thing.
Right.
So I feel like they protect themselves a lot legally, and they make it almost impossible for you to like get what you need.
Man.
And I would call. So my full-time job actually became calling almost every day for like 3 to 6 months, almost 20, 30 hours a day. I would call and call and call. And I would ask the same question every single time. This might sound crazy to you, and I might sound like a manipulator,
Right.
but I will sound stupid. I will sound utterly stupid. I will be
Right.
like, deductible. What is that? Like, I don't understand. Sorry. Like, and I would say like, hey, look, I just had brain surgery. I'm not thinking straight. Can you help me out? And I would ask the same question. And you'd be crazy to think that you might, out of 5 different people, you ask the same question, you might get 3 different answers.
From the same insurance company or different ones?
Same insurance company.
Wow.
Same insurance company. So I would get 3 different answers. And then after the first month of doing this, I spoke to this guy, and he was super nice. So there's people that they just don't like their jobs, and like these people get screamed at, they get treated like utterly terrible, like terrible. So then I'm understanding of that. I used to work in the pharmacy for 4 years as a pharmacy tech. So I'll get people eating me alive, and all I want to do is, hey, look, this is your prescription. I'm gonna fill it up.
You're gonna
That's
leave.
it.
Yeah.
And I've dealt with schizophrenics in the pharmacy, so I've seen people get really like aggressive.
Yeah.
Like people want to throw chairs at me and stuff at the pharmacy because they're January 1st came in, they didn't have the updated insurance card, so I couldn't process their insurance. Like,
Oh my God.
so I just treat them very nice with a lot of respect, but I also dumb down my answers, my questions. So I can get, it sounds so fucked up, man. But like I feel like when you ask people to explain things to you, they really talk to you more. Like I'm interested in what the answers are. And in one case, this guy said, "Oh yeah, your benefit of $6,000 or something." And it's after the first month of me after brain surgery. It's like March. I'm like, I'm sorry, like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm confused. He said, yeah, you have this special association benefit that you get $600 per day that you were admitted, minus 1 day, because the first day they don't count it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like, I've literally spoken to like 30 people in the past month at least. And this is the first time I hear about this. Like, what are you talking about? And then I looked it up. I went to the website and I logged in and I clicked the association benefits, and it just come out blank. That specific benefit, it wouldn't load like at all. And I tried to like print it out, and it just wouldn't. Nothing would happen. And to this day, I can't access it. But he told me I have that benefit. I'm like, look, are you sure? Because I'm trying to access it. I don't see it. He's like, yeah, you do. And he's like, yeah, you're paying $20 a month for it or something in the price of the 250. And I'm like, I'm so confused right now. I'm like, let me get this straight.
All right.
Send me a check for $6,000 because you help me out per day. He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Who's in charge of doing this? Like, who do I talk to?
Right.
He's like, oh, they haven't done this for you. I'm like, man, I'm telling you, you're the first person I speak to that says this.
Right.
And he's like, oh, and so hold on. I'm like, oh, and how soon do you think I can get it? Because I just experienced a lot, and the bills are starting to come in, and I don't really have a lot of money. And I also was about to increase my premium to the 700 for the upgraded plan. And he's like, all right, I'll send it to management. I'll make sure it's expedited. And lo and behold, a week later, I got a check in the mail for $6,000. Had I not called
30,000 times.
20, 30 hours a week, I wouldn't have spoken to the specific gentleman that told me about a benefit I have on my insurance plan.
Wow.
And then that's when I got a taste of it. I was like, I see how this works now.
Right. Yeah. You got to ask a lot of questions and call a lot of people.
Call a lot of people. Don't ask different questions. I ask the same question over and over and over and over. And especially if it doesn't seem right, I'm like, all right, this doesn't seem right. I'm going to keep asking the same question over and over.
Right.
And it got to a point where I have a good relationship with some of these people I spoke to on the phone. Like I hear the voice and I know them by name.
Wow.
That's how much I've called. So I finally got on the phone with someone, and this is already like later in the game. Like I want to say July, before my dad passed away. And I was talking to this I don't say lady or a girl? Because she sounded like she was my age. What do you call someone that's your age and you're 29? A girl, a lady,
Young woman, young woman.
a young woman. That's nice.
Yeah.
A young woman.
Yeah, young woman.
So I built a relationship with her over the phone. Mind you, an insurance agent, and she's from Texas.
Hmm.
And I'd asked her, this is like the fifth time I asked this question about the deductible. I'm like, oh, can you please explain to me? Because I don't understand the deductibles. And she's explaining to me, and she's really nice about it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm just confused because my deductible is 3,000 here in network, 6,000 out of network, but it's over 9,000. It's like 9,200. Like, where's the 200? If I have 6 and 9 and 3 max. And she's like, I don't know. And she looks into it. And she's like, oh, I have a question for you. Like these visits that you had in the hospital, because I told her a lot of them are out of network because I'm in the hospital bed and I got 10 doctors coming in and I can't say, hey, stop. Are you in my network? Like, before brain surgery? Like,
Right, yeah.
that's not what was crossing my mind. Like, it did cross my mind. Like, wow, this is going to be crazy if I survive this.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, oh, it was out of network, but you're in the hospital. You're admitted, so you had no choice, really. I'm like, yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, you
Yeah.
get me. She's like, also, these people technically should be charged as a network. And I'm like, okay. So
Keep
what do I
speaking.
do?
Keep
Keep
speaking.
speaking.
Yeah.
But she's super nice to me. She's super
Yeah.
nice to me. Like I have her extension and everything. I just call her. I just ask for her by name and they okay, hold on. And they transfer me to her directly. And I'm on the phone with her for an hour and I'm not even talking. Like really, like she's doing all the talking and she's being super nice and transparent. I said, okay, so she spent an hour looking through all my claims, which is like almost 80 claims. All I'm lying. The specific ones with deductibles charged. So 20, 30. She was looking through all of them and she was
Okay.
organizing them. Say, okay, so my deductible, which was 9,200 and something, she brought it down to 3,000 flat.
Wow.
Because she said all of these things that were the great majority of my charges were in the hospital.
So
Like
they
it wasn't
should have been in network.
So she charged it as in network.
So for those who aren't
Or she
following,
sent it, yeah.
yeah. So for those who aren't following, basically because everything was out of network originally, Johnny didn't technically meet his deductible because every single doctor that he saw wasn't in network, so it didn't contribute to his deductible. So when he got on the phone with the insurance company, she basically made it so all of the doctors that he saw that were technically out of network, but because he was in the hospital, they should have been in network, and she basically decreased his deductible from 9,200 to 3,000 flat. So that way he only has to pay an additional $3,000 to meet his deductible. So that way the insurance plan will cover the rest if he were to get any more, obviously, and he's going to get more charges later down the road. So saved him a lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot
That
of money.
6,000 is technically cash I have to pay.
Right.
So that was surreal. I was like, wow, like if you can get someone that really cares on the phone, they can change your life. Like they really can. So that's what I learned from this game of insurance companies. Like you gotta call and be nice. Like I'm so respectful to it. Like the way I'm talking to you is the way I'll talk to them.
Yeah.
And I'll act a little more like I don't understand, just so I can get a full explanation. Because some people know a lot more than I do about it. So I want to hear what they have to say. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I know what the deductible is.
Yeah.
And then cut them out and then they stop. And they're like, okay, what do you want?
And people have a pretty bad sometimes relationship with insurance companies, and if you get on the phone and you're already talking like a dick, like it probably won't get you anywhere.
At all. On
Yeah.
the contrary, they'll be like, okay, you want to be a dick? I'll be a dick back.
Right.
Whereas if you're just nice, kind, sincere, and I let them know, like, hey, look, I know you go through a lot dealing with people like me. So all I ask is you help me out, and I'll be very nice. And if there's people that are still mean to you, they're still like, what do you want? They just say ID number. And I give them my ID number. I'm like, oh, by the way, what's your name? And then they're like, why? Like, my name is this. Like, why do you care? Kind of thing, like very rude, very closed off. And I can imagine why, because they probably get complaints put on them all the time and stuff.
Right.
When I get that taste, when I feel that, I'm like, okay. So I just end it pretty quick. I'm like, okay, oh, I'm sorry, I have to go. And then I call again an hour later. I speak to someone else.
You were on it, man. You were definitely on
this
that.
is a full-time job.
Yeah. I mean, thank God you're working from home and you could do that.
Exactly.
And you're still with the same insurance company, and then your deductible is the same now, and you're paying the same monthly premium and everything.
No.
No.
So because that, it's only for 6 months. And then I had to renew it after 6 months. So in July, I had to renew it again. That's when I kind of spoke to the agent that helped me out a lot.
Okay.
Um, so that specific agent, her dad also passed away
Oh, okay.
around the same time as my dad. So we were talking about it like afterwards, like, oh yeah, how are you doing and stuff. Like that. I built it. I think we're all comrades at the end of the day. We're all human. We're all trying to like make it.
Figure this stuff out.
Yeah. So now this year I had to change to Florida Blue, and because I couldn't renew with that plan again. Like they had a like in the contract it says once you do this, because they pay 100% of what is covered under the insurance.
Mm.
So all these bills for 400,000. This is the really sketchy part. The $400,000 bill. That's one of them. It said that the insurance company got a discount of $300,000 before I upgraded. So a provided discount of $300,000. So remaining balance was like 110,000, and then the insurance company contributed 10,000 out of their pocket. So that's what they actually paid cash, 10,000, and then I got left with a bill of 100,000. So out of 410,000, whatever it was, the bill, they only paid 10,000, but they got a discount of 300,000, which is
Oh,
like I try to think about it, and like obviously there's contracts involved, they have agreements involved where, hey, look, we'll discount you this much if you at least pay us this much, kind of thing.
right.
At least that's my theory, and I got all of that covered when I upgraded. Like I was so hesitant because to pay $700 a month in health insurance is, it's a big chunk, and they covered a great majority of my expenses, which is crazy. I didn't think they'd do it, but I
Mm.
guess for me calling, they did it, and I'm grateful for them for that. And now I'm paying $1,100 a month in health premium,
My God.
and that's not because I have MS. That's just because I got the highest tier possible that I can get.
I mean, you have to with all the stuff you're getting. I mean, you'd pay all that out of pocket anyway.
Exactly, and it's easier. Like they really, when you pay that much, like it's things are much easier in
Yeah.
terms of seeing doctors and stuff. They don't say I'm already paying 1,100. Like please don't make my life harder.
Yeah.
But
And it,
then the MRIs are still $300 copay, anyways. It's like I
wait,
got two MRIs, so that's $600 in copay.
you still have to pay the copay for the MRI?
Yeah, 600, 300 each.
What? That's
So
bonkers. First of all, it's stupid that you have to pay $1,100 a month and then you get the care that you need, and then it's also more stupid that you still have to pay $300 for a copay for an MRI and pay. I mean, you're paying over $12,000, $13,000 a year for just insurance.
just insurance.
Man, and can you
And that's
deduct?
not the bills I owe from last year. The 3,000 deductible I still owe from last year and all those things.
And can you is there any tax deductions that you can take with your insurance bills at all, or no?
I spoke to our CPA about it, and he said that with like health insurance, like there's not really a tax deduction. And your expenses have to be something like you get an automatic deduction of like $12,000, I think. Automatic for I think it's throughout the board federally, supposedly.
Oh,
So for you to actually claim some kind of deduction, you have to spend way more than that. I don't know if it was like 20,000 or something. So I don't know if I'll even hit that because I like to think I'm playing the game smart and just I want them to pay for it. I don't want to.
yeah, you don't have to pay for it. I mean, it's good that you're on top of it too, because I can't imagine. I mean, some of these, especially if you're older. I mean, you're young and healthy and smart and otherwise just able to stay on top of stuff, but I can't imagine. I mean, even if you're like in your 40s and you got kids and you got other stuff going on, you have to work to put food on the table. You won't have the luxury of just sitting down and taking a full-time job to get to know all these callers names and develop a relationship and figure out what you need to do from a bill standpoint.
Exactly. Imagine those guys, those ladies, everyone, they tend to work 9 to 5 also, health insurance companies,
Right.
or 9 to 7, whatever it is.
Whatever.
So you get out of work at 5 and they're basically about to leave. And at the end of the day, you're like, I don't want to do anyone. Like, I just want to get my job done.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tricky to, I don't know how people do it. Like, I really don't. Like, I'm just so blessed to be able to do it from home. And I can work at night and get away with it. I don't know how many. Do you ever have patients that you feel like their insurances aren't really there to help them out, or
Yeah, I get them a lot. Not so much in the Bay Area. The Bay Area is certainly a lot of wealthy people live in the Bay Area, and I do at home visits. So a lot of the people who can pay for at home visits usually are generally better off, or they have better insurance plans, which is benefit for me because I don't have to deal with it as much. But when I was working in Buffalo, every now and again you'd run into somebody who, I mean, they're in a significant amount of pain, and their copay is like $50 or $100 every visit, and
wow.
and you want them to come in 2 to 3 times, twice a week, just to, especially in the beginning, if they're in a lot of pain, you want to make sure that they're doing well and doing the things that they need to do to get better. But um, with that being said, you have to work around it, because even paying $100 deductible just to be seen for the first visit is like a lot for them for the month. So um, you have to have that conversation and learn how to talk about finances early on, because obviously in order for them to get better, you have to work around it. And I think acknowledging that part aspect with them early on makes it more comfortable for them to realize, like, okay, like, you're considering all the parts versus just like, okay, come in, I don't care how much it pays, like, you need to come in here. Like, I was talking to another person who's he went to go see a chiropractor, not to bash chiropractors or anything, he just happened to get a bad one, but um he went to the chiropractor and it's like, oh yeah, your neck's super not aligned, and it's really bad, and you need to come in 3 times a week for the next month or whatever. And usually he's like, let's talk money. Like, usually it'd be like $1,000, but if you do it right now, it'll be like $600 or $700 or something for
Total
the month.
sales pitch.
Literally a sales pitch. Like, are you talking to a chiropractor? Or are you talking to a car salesman?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I've been thankful now, working in the Bay Area, to not have to deal with that as much, but it's certainly out there. And I've talked to other therapists who've dealt with the same thing, where it's like it's difficult to deal with the copays and get patients better, because ultimately at the end of the day, that's what you want to do, is get people better. But it's difficult sometimes.
I can't imagine what it's like for doctors.
Yeah.
The other end of the spectrum. It's you guys are just trying to help people, and then you guys get bashed for it as if it's your problem. It's
Yeah. And I think, again, I think dealing with the elephant in the room is definitely the best way to do it, instead of just like dancing around it and then getting to the end and being like, okay, bye. And then they have to talk to the front desk lady. I feel like that's like cold,
yeah,
and I feel like it's easy to do, to just be like, okay, go talk to the front desk about your payments. And not that the front desk can't handle those situations, but I feel like, because from my standpoint, it's a lot easier to talk about all the different moving parts and be like, listen, like, in order for you to get better, you have to kind of invest a little bit in your future. And I want you to get better. But if you pay a little bit more now, we can, so that you can get better sooner. And then we can kind of like space out the visits a little bit more, and we can kind of work with what works for you. So that way you can get better. Cause sometimes their pain limits their day function. Like, they can't go to work, or they can't take care of their kids the way they want to do. So like, it's really impeding on their actual daily activities. So that makes it challenging. But again, I think it's, as a provider, you have to address it so that way you don't seem cold and harsh.
yeah. I think it's pretty cool too, also because my neuro mentioned it. Like he was trying to help me out. He was like, "All right, let's try to." The first hospital, he tried to like label something in a way that the insurance would cover it.
Right.
Like that was medically necessary. Yes, it was medically necessary. He
Right.
understood that it's not easy.
Yeah.
But how many patients do you have with MS that you?
I don't work with a ton. I work with one right now, and no, I'm sorry. I work with two. One, they're both older though. One is very progressive and has a lot of impairments, and we're doing what we can to get her moving and stay active, and she's got a walker and everything. And then my other patient, she more recently has started experiencing stuff, and like you, she's in her early 60s and hasn't really seen any impairments up until recently. And the only reason why she did is because she had a fall, and she had broken a bone in her body. And with
Wow.
MS, it kind of it made the recovery process a lot more difficult in the meantime. So again, thankfully, she hasn't had much impairments over her lifetime, and she's been able to do all this traveling. She's been to Japan, and had this amazing life and stuff like that. So like you said, everyone's a little bit different with MS, and thankfully, you know, she's been able to go and do the things that you want to do. And it seems like you're going to be able to do that as well, and have a normal life expectancy and quality of life for the most
I
part.
hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so.
No, you will. You will. I'm not. Yeah.
I'm doing everything I can to
I mean, you're on
make
top
that
of
the
it.
outcome.
You're definitely on
Um,
top of everything. Like staying, I'm sure you're going to be as active as you can and be on top of your medical bills and everything.
the bills. It's funny how to even have that conversation.
What's that?
It's funny that we even have to have that conversation. The
Yeah.
bills.
It seems like there's a much more bigger problem with insurance companies and just paying for medical bills in and of itself. And it could probably be another lecture or a ongoing thing that you could talk about with the difficulties in, you know, the insurance world. But um, I think what people need to realize sometimes too is sometimes you need to do the early things with exercise and try to be healthy and do the best you can. So that way, if you do run into some issues, you're already in good shape. You know, I think people don't think about that. And that's what I kind of want this podcast to be too, is a way for people to be like, okay, well, you know, if anything was to ever happen to me, at least I'll be already in good shape, you know. And like you were doing jujitsu and exercising beforehand, and it probably helped you in your recovery after the fact. And you know, for other people, and even like with COVID right now, people who are out of shape or have comorbidities do more difficult with the disease. And it I'm hoping that with some of these stories and things that I share with people, that they'll realize that we need to, although exercise is hard and diet is hard and trying to stay fit overall is difficult and it's difficult to navigate all the information, it'll be good for people to realize that if you can put in the work early on, it'll pay dividends later. And it's kind of like with financial stuff. The earlier you start saving, the better off you're going to be later on. And it's like the earlier you start exercising, the better you'll be later on.
I 120% agree.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because part of my dilemma mentally was, why did this happen to me? Because all my life I was a super, I what I consider, I was very healthy. Like I don't eat fast foods. I don't drink soda. I try to eat just whole foods, not whole foods, but like
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
foods. You know.
You
Um,
guys got Publix down there.
yeah, we got Publix. We got Publix. And I talked to Vicky about it, and she's like, "Babe, you gotta look at it in another way." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Maybe if it wasn't for you, I didn't do drugs. Also, first time I drank, I was like 21, and I didn't get drunk until I was like 22, and then I stopped drinking until I was like 24. And
Wow.
then smoking, first time I tried weed, I was like 23, and it wasn't until last year, I'm being transparent. It wasn't until last year where I started like taking on smoking more.
Hmm.
And because I kind of replaced drinking with friends and I rather smoke with friends. I know it
Yeah.
sounds kind of like, oh, you're just inhaling toxins and shit.
But weed,
Um,
I mean, weed has, I think it's more, not mainstream right now, but I mean, it is mainstream, but it's definitely, people realize the benefits of it more so than drinking. Like you
yeah,
can, like, it's definitely way more helpful.
I think it's easier on your body too.
Yeah. Especially the morning
Um,
after.
exactly. Like last night, all my friends were like getting hammered, and I was just
Yeah. We're good.
chilling.
We're good. I'm good right here.
I'm good. I'll have a
Yeah.
little shot too, and that's it. Um, so Vicky told me that maybe if I hadn't been living such a proactively healthy lifestyle most of my life, up until the age of 28, when I got 30 lesions and black holes in my brain, maybe my maybe my brain and body wouldn't have been able to react in such a great way. You know, and
Yeah.
maybe if my body was destroyed from drugs and drinking and being inactive and stuff, if that happened to me, maybe it would have been a much different experience.
Yeah.
So I totally agree that very proactive instead of reactive, which is our medical system is like too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, yeah. And I think that's a good point to leave off on, is just, uh, you got to be proactive, even if things they're not prevalent now, but later down the road. I mean, I get this all the time, even with like clients. Like I also do training, like as a personal trainer with people at home, and a lot of the time they're in their 40s or their 50s, and they're like, I'm out of shape. I haven't done anything, da 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 da. And they're like, I wish I started doing this when I was in my 20s or my 30s. And like, hindsight's 2020, well, whatever the saying is now, and it's
2020.
2020. And the earlier you can start, the easier it will be to maintain in your life and make it a lifestyle, because that's essentially what we're talking about. It's got to be a part of your lifestyle without any negotiations or other considerations.
It has to be a lifestyle.
Yeah. So, we've been talking for a while, and it's been great, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you. But I do want to leave off on one kind of note. If there was one thing that perhaps you can go back, I know you're very in the present, and I know you're you don't like to think about the past because it doesn't exist anymore. But if there was one thing that you could go back and change, would there be anything? And if there isn't, is there something that maybe you can tell somebody, like you would like to tell somebody that maybe be going through the same thing or might be going through the same thing, that they should do for themselves?
Past in the sense of 2020, or past as in my whole life?
I'd say 2020, just in regards to like your recent experience with MS.
Um, what I would change?
Yeah. Whether it
It's
be
kind
like,
of tricky.
would you have would you've looked into insurance things more? Do you think that maybe like paying more early on, or do you feel like that was still like at the time just the best information you had to, or do you feel like you could have been doing more exercise wise, or do you feel like you should have been more like pushy early on with the doctors to be like, no, like there's something wrong here?
Mm, well, that, yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
But in the moment, I trusted the professionals, and it's like you're gonna argue with an MD. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I know you went to school for 10, 15 years, but I think I'm right and I think you're wrong. Like,
Right.
it's hard to do that. But now, like, you better believe, like, I get even a little, like, I feel a little headache, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of traumatizing, but definitely that for sure. I would have been more aggressive in like seeking an opinion. But then it's tricky because you're kind of like you're caught up in, yeah, I want to keep seeing a doctor, doctors plural, to get this figured out. But then every time I go, they charge me $5,000 to draw my blood.
Sure.
Which that was the bill. It was like $5,000 for that one emergency visit where they drew my blood, and I was in there for less than an hour.
Jesus Christ.
So it's like, yeah, I would love to do that, but then it's the issue of finances. Like, can you afford to do that?
Hmm.
And that's tricky. It's like, how do you balance it out? But I would definitely try to be more aggressive.
Do you
I'm
feel
not
like
gonna say nice. I mean like aggressive. Like, say, hey, no, do scans on me before I walk out of here.
right?
Especially if it's neural.
And would you say that would be your best advice to somebody who may be going through the same thing right now?
Yeah, yeah. Because I actually know someone that they said that they felt MS like, and the doctor said, oh, you know, just come back in a few months or weeks, and we'll do more tests. Don't wait, because that time passes and things just get worse or harder to deal with. Like, had that doctor initially done the scans on me day one, then maybe it would have been caught early on, and they would have loaded me up with steroids and kind of slowed or stopped the progression a bit immediately,
Yeah.
versus 2 whole weeks of just lesions, 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 or getting bigger and worse and worse and worse. And I got lucky that my deficits were so little. But yeah, I would definitely recommend that you guys like take care of your health first. You know, like these doctors, these professionals, like they have their own lives, they have their own families, they have their own health insurance to deal with, they have their own issues. And only you can be your own health advocate. Like, only you can care about you. Like, no one's gonna care about you more than you can possibly.
Yeah.
So take care of you first, and then you can worry about other things.
Yeah, that's great. And have you gotten more involved? I know you said you used to be working at the Children's Hospital. Have you gotten more involved with other communities with people with MS at all? I know we used to do a lot of MS walks in Buffalo when we were in PT school, and it's like the MS Foundation. Are you associated with that, and do you get involved with that at all?
I donate monthly to the MS Society, like financially,
Hmm.
because I do hope that eventually there'll be something that'll really like help people out even more.
Yeah.
And the MS walks and all that, it's tricky because the pandemic just they
Yeah.
canceled everything. So it's
Hmm.
like I want to, but and then it's like a catch 22. Like, yeah, I want to do it. I want to go walk and spend time and meet people, but then if I get sick, it's not gonna
I don't think
Do I
getting
want
a
to
bunch of
get sick?
immunocompromised people in one place is probably a good idea right now.
Exactly. Exactly. So I did join like Facebook groups, which there's Facebook groups out there, and it can be super supportive. But then
Mhm.
you have like sometimes, at least how I perceive, I perceive things the way I think I perceive them, and then everyone wears different glasses. Everyone views the world in a different light.
Different lens, yeah.
Um, so I'm aware of that. And sometimes the way I perceive it is some people are very openly negative, very like, selling shirts that say, I have MS. If I get sick, I die. Like, what? I get the message. I understand the
Yeah,
message, but like
it's
that,
so the wrong message.
It's easier for someone to be like, oh wow, I shouldn't be next to that person because they could die because they have MS. But what about all the MS people wearing that shirt? That's doing something to their head.
Yeah.
Like if you start believing that, then that's gonna cause more suffering in you than actually getting sick. In my opinion.
Yeah. I think the
Um,
mental game is super, super important.
yeah.
And I, with MS, you definitely got to be on top of that. You got to have good conversations with yourself, essentially.
I talk to myself too much. I was on a DMT trip the night before brain surgery, I think.
Having multiple
Uh,
talk conversations with yourselves.
I know you're closing out, but I was wondering what you think about meditation.
I used to meditate. I don't do it as much anymore just because um, I feel like I've reached a good point with I know how to talk to myself in a friendly
Talk to
manner.
ourselves.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I read this book one time and it was about it was really about how to the book is the subtle art of not giving a fuck.
Yeah. I
The
haven't read it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a second book that says how to I forgot the name of the book, but it's by the same author and the basis of the book is basically how the conversations you have between you and yourself. And one of the things that he talks about is like, you're having all these thoughts, but a lot of the time the thoughts are just their thoughts are thoughts essentially, and the only time they have merit is when you give them weight, right? You give them emotional
Yeah.
weight. And so I think meditation can be great. And I think meditation got me to that point where I can actually recognize thought patterns in my own head. And I think that's been super great. And it was helpful early on to like get me to keep motivated in like PT school and um, just to keep things straight in my head. So I'm definitely a big advocate for it. And I've also told patients sometimes too, especially if they're really stressed and they feel like they're just like, I can't deal with this pain. I got so many things going on. I'm like, I don't just be like, yo, you should meditate. But
Although people like that exist, though.
yeah, right.
They do exist.
It's more of brought up in casual conversation. Be like, stress is you talk about stress, and then you're like, and meditation can help, and give them that avenue at least. But I'm definitely a big
Yeah.
proponent of it.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm assuming you have very similar.
I think I found peace with myself, and I meditate in a weird way. I meditate in MRIs.
Really,
Have you ever been in an MRI?
I have not had the pleasure.
I have not had the pleasure. Well,
Yeah,
I've been in quite a few. I literally have like 10 to 20 hours in MRIs now, at least.
you got a part-time job being in an MRI.
Yeah, because the brain and cervical is an hour and a half with and without contrast.
Wow.
That's just one day at the MRI,
And you
and
can't
then
listen
you're
to
sitting
audiobooks or
there.
anything.
Well, so that's the thing. The first time I did it, there was no headphones or anything. So it was just boom, 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 beep, 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 boom, boom. Like it's a crazy
You got
experience.
the noises down.
Yeah, and it's like you're in there for an hour and a half, and if there's no music, if there's no that's another piece of advice I'll give people. Try to get music in the MRI. Like
Interesting.
ask for headphones. Like absolutely.
Mm.
My trick is if there's no music, those sounds like you're there for an hour and a half, like it just feels like one endless loop of time. Like it never ends.
Mm.
Whereas if you have music, I listen to a song. Let's say average song is 3 minutes long. 5 songs passed. That's about 15 minutes have passed. It like gives me like a timestamp of okay, I've listened to 10 songs,
I'm getting
or
closer.
at least yeah, we're getting close, 30 minutes in. Whereas without that, it's like super torture.
Yeah. I used
Um,
to do that with I used to do construction, and
Oh, cool.
the days were super long. Like we'd work like 16-hour days. And I remember at the end of Tuesday one week, we had 32 hours by the end of Tuesday.
What?
And so,
Wow.
yeah, it was wild. And well, because we
I have
were in,
respect for construction workers, man. You guys work hard.
it's a different level, man. And then like in New York, we're you only have so much time during the year to work because it snows. And so that's why you had to put so much time in during the summers. And I remember listening to music, and I'm like, all right, I'm about like 15 songs into my playlist. I'm
Yeah.
about almost a halfway through the day.
We have the same thought process then, I think.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, listen, dude, it's
Uh,
been great talking to you, man, and getting to know
Likewise.
you and sharing your story has been great. And I definitely would love to have you on another podcast too, just sharing more experiences with your life. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Of course, man.